Good.
How I updated things.
That's excellent. I went. Oh yeah, that's fantastic. I got some advice from him for my game for a one-shot next Thursday. So I think I'll talk about that at the end of the show. What's going on? For more Gary lore to make sure he was good with what's going on. So
he seems to like the ideas that I came up with. I think they were
that's awesome.
Cracked enough to appeal to him. So.
Very, very good. So, all right, everything looks good. Sound looks good. Let's see if everyone can hear us.
Hello, guys.
A lot of people are over on the Troll Lord site, is my guess. I mean, on the Blue Box site is my guess right now. So.
Go over. Let me mute that.
We're really early, but I wanted to make sure that we were up and flowing, so.
There we go. Excellent.
Yep, there you are.
Let me go, I'm gonna go grab a water right now.
Take your time. Oh yeah, you got time,
Yep.
man. Just wanted to get us into the flow here.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and that would be the other thing, is the first part of my, like that long campaign that I ran, that went from, for a couple of years there, was all along the Wild Coast and into the marsh. So.
Well, perfect. That's great. So we got a lot of in common things there. We can talk, really get into some depth.
Absolutely.
On
be right back.
On that. Take your time. We're in good shape. So Anna, I'm doing an adventure for tomorrow night. It's called Rumble in the Warehouse, right? So I have this huge. I mean, it's over 2 feet long warehouse, right, from Gamescape. It's in Pete. It's just the great thing about it is it's ever expandable the way he set it up. And then so I'm putting up the town around it, putting up stuff, and I look at my map and I'm like, I don't have a warehouse district on my map anywhere. I was like, crap. Oh, fit it in somewhere. Can't be that hard to fit it in. Hey, Patrick.
Yeah.
Can you hear us, Patrick?
Hopefully he can. Yep.
Hey, Doc. Thanks. Thanks, Doc.
Yep.
Can you hear me? Just trying to get a sound check.
Hopefully they can hear us.
Hopefully. This over here. Let me put our map up here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Whoops. Accidentally moved that by accident. Good. Just wanted to get it up and early there. Great. Thank you. Because it sounded like Blue Box is going to finish up. And if they run long, that's good. Now we're up and we're here. So...
just hanging out.
Just hanging out. So... And Les, thanks a lot for putting in the 2 events, man, for Japan.
I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, one of them is actually a Bone March / Spinecast.
That's awesome. Oh, that's going to sell in 10 seconds.
One of the, ideally one of the pre-gens is, one of the pre-gens is going to be a Priest of Hexlore, and another is actually going to be an Orc mercenary, so...
That's cool.
Shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, nice. It looks like we're going to have a lot of great games.
Oh, yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. The question is going to be like, how much can I do without breaking myself?
Well, yeah, you gotta. I understand that completely. I mean, like, you know, I don't know how Carlos does it at GaryCon. I mean, he's
Yeah, I
like,
know.
oh my gosh.
The dude is a machine.
Yeah. So when the raid comes over, I'm going to go immediately, if you give me a minute, because they're talking Altamira, where Altamira is on the air map, and I want to show them. I'm going to show them real quick what we got on the Greyhawk map and how it's going to, yeah, just a quickie, like a minute thing. Nice. Pork. What's up there, Zump? Kung Fu. Kung Fu. You got your you got everything, right? You got your code. I'm hoping. Zump, Dale, Goblin. Good to see you all. Thanks for coming on a little early as we were making sure that we were here for when a decent sized raid will come in, and also because the discussion on Blue Box's channel is kind of disconnected, not to orcs but to us, especially to Anna and me. So, which is cool.
Yep.
We're talking Starship Warden
Earlier.
Yeah, because Steven's got a tower that's 3,000 feet high and like 1,500 feet wide. It's like 21 levels, and he's like, it's been forever. I'm still filling it. I'll get there eventually. And like Rob over at Rob Fan New Jersey gives that's going to be bigger than Starship Warden. He's like, I'm not sure about that, but it's going to be big.
It'll be big. You know,
It's cool. That's like a whole city. That's like a
it's like it's Rappahathic size, maybe even big, probably bigger than that, right, Dale?
It's like a whole city. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can talk about that Medcam. There's a solution for everything, and I can tell you my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I could actually go into the story of what Mr. Gygax said on Dragon's Foot back in the day about.
That's great.
Wonderful.
That's perfect.
Yep.
That is a perfect way to take that all, out early and discuss that. So, very cool. We are early, everyone, as you know. And they're stalling because the fear was Steven Chenault would run out of steam, but I don't think he has yet. But that's okay. Better safe than sorry.
He's full of his Dr. Pepper tonight.
Hey, good to see you, man. Fantasy Grounds.
Great. Yeah, I'm Tolkien this all the way here too.
There's your sign up. If you, got a $5 nominal charge just to cover costs, and we are 52 degrees Fahrenheit. That's cold in the UK. Oof. Ugh. I guess you got a breeze,
like
an ocean breeze.
It's better than 52 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, I'd say.
There are parts of Europe that almost has that now. So yeah. So right now I think it's kind of Not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, currently I'm sitting pretty at a heat index of 100.
Okay.
100, you said? Ugh.
100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Ugh.
Heat index.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
hot here. It was like 92 here today.
Yeah, it's on the cool side here. It's only 93. Yeah. But
I've been
we
feeling
go,
it. Go on.
I was going to say, we going from having tropical heat a couple of days ago to more like desert heat now. So it's humidity is disappearing. We've had kind of balmy, humid days, and now we're going into desert again. So it's getting better. So it doesn't feel that hot.
These houses in the U.S. South are designed to, they've got air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
They're very nice, but the problem is that they aren't necessarily built for sustained heat over the course of full months.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the AC's
You need
constantly
insulation.
running,
Be really, really insulated. And,
Like
and
the other
yeah.
morning, I woke up in the heat, and believe it or not, and I was like sweating.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what's going on? I turned to look at my phone, and the heat index is like already, mind you, this is 4:35 in the morning.
yeah.
The heat index was already at 99,
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's
and I'm like,
what state are you in again?
right, Arkansas.
Oh, so you're not far from Stephen Chenault.
No, actually, he's. I'm believe it or not, we're a
Where'd it
hop,
come?
skip, and a jump away from
Blue
each other.
Box! Look at that. I'm
Blue
going
Box.
live right now.
Mhm.
Look at that. What is that timing or what? Awesome. So, good evening. Stick around. I want to show everyone something really quick here. I'm J.K. Lord Gazamba. With me is the legendary Anna B. Meyer and
Hello.
the great Oblivion Seeker Les Reno. Cameraless,
Hey.
but we can deal with that. So, yes, let's hit over real quick for all those that were talking on this. And I probably hit a wrong button here, like I always do.
Uh-oh.
We'll see that. We'll see. I don't want to go. I don't want to go to. I did. There you go. I was going to be a. It was going to be a mongrel. All right. So Altamira, here is where it is in Greyhawk for everyone who just came in from that other stream from Blue Box.
Mhm.
So we can talk about that real quick, and we'll get on to our orcs. We are a little early here. And John, thank you for the rain. Thank you for the honor of starting your campaign in my city that Anna and I are working on. So here is Greyhawk. If you notice, it looks similar to the air map, as Stephen took a lot of his inspiration from Greyhawk. Keeland is Kaomar in his game. Okay, that's where he took that's where he got the Kingdom of Kaomar from, and also notice the Fairy Kingdom of Selene. All these estates, these are going to go in Fontenoke, however you pronounce it, south. So it'll be flipped. The Dwarven Kingdom will be the Lortmil's Kingdom here. And here is Altamira. Now, you'll have this river running. Here's the Sus. It'll be the Twilight Forest. Boom, right in. Without stripped of Greyhawk content, because there's really none in there. This is my own symbol. The Knights of York become the Knights of Altamira. Boom, it'll be placed right in. Just to give you a little heads up as to what the thought process is. And this will be a full box set. We're going to have encounters. We're going to have all sorts of stuff. The maps, Anna, real quick, tell them the scale of the mapping.
Well, I'm working on an area that the final area will probably be somewhere around 20 by 20 miles at 5 feet per pixel resolution.
5 feet per pixel resolution.
Yep, my porta potty scale.
Yes,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that'll be this whole area blown up in a super high resolution. The map
it'll be the area around there. Yep.
There'll be a city map. It'll all be there, and it's going to be set so it fits here, fits in aired. It's going to be placed in aired, all aired content. And here we got permission from WotC. We're going to put a supplemental free download out with all the Greyhawk conversions. They've actually told us how to do it so that we don't get in trouble, but it will be in both locations. And, we're really excited about it. So, yeah. And that, yes, we're hoping to have the Kickstarter running within a few months and have this. I'd love to have something in print or in hand by Gary Con of next year, which means next February or March of next year. It's in print. Remember, there's all sorts of edition issues with paper and stuff. And Troller Games has been awesome with us. We're working on it. I'm doing all my writing. My friends are helping me with ideas. We got a ton of things going on. It's going to be fantastic. But for the time being, I'm going to help John with him when he's playing in Altamira with the details. I'll give you here one quick example. Then we're going to orcs, Gary. I promise. here is the warehouse district on my table for tomorrow night. Okay, so this is part of the warehouse district, all in, yeah, and we can, like, I got pictures of this galore. John could put this right in the tailspire, right? And that's the great thing. So, yeah, there you go. Just to give you an idea, this is Gamescape 3D. It opens up. Lots of, this is some of the great things. There you go. Some ideas of, and this is for Rumble in the Warehouse tomorrow night. It's a one shot. And why is this a one shot? Because, John, did you mention this? I'm going to do it, John. Then, if you haven't, why is this a one shot? Because next, let's ruin the surprise. Well, it's going to be a surprise. Next week, next Thursday night, someone will be in my house in person playing with my friends. All right, John will be in my house next Thursday. John will be in Philly, and John will be playing with my guys next Thursday. Okay, in Adventure 963, the Saintly Reliquary. John, yes, at the table. So, yes, and the group's really excited, John, to have you there, playing in person, and that'll be next Thursday night's game. So I had to one shot this week. Yes, exactly. He'll be there, not even remotely in, dude. He'll be right there in person at the table. Yep. And we're all excited about that. I'll only be missing one player, Alan. Build-A-Master Craft will be there. The ever-mysterious Tim will be there in person, too. So we're excited. And look, it's not even 8 o'clock yet, so I can blather like this a little bit. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, the streams will cross. It'll be fun. I'm making up a character for John. This character will be a relation to Ashrin and House Thronedale and the Four Sisters. Remember, Ashrin's the youngest of the four. He'll be a half-elven ranger thief. And Anna loves those Ranger class ones, multi-classers. Yes, and that'll be next week. Just want to give everyone some things that are going on, and that is what is about to happen here, along with all the other great things. So, Ear, thank you for the follow, by the way, too. So we got some new follows coming in here, and there we go. Chuck, thanks a lot. Thank you so very much. So tonight, let's talk Orcs of Greyhawk and their kin. What a great topic. So we bring Les on once every couple months. Les is an expert at Greyhawk. Les is running 2 games right now at Virtual GreyhawkCon. So Les, why don't you give us a synopsis of your thoughts on Orcs as it pertains to Greyhawk?
As it pertains to Greyhawk,
Orcs, I hit the wrong button. Go ahead. That was wrong.
Are among my favorite villains. And sometimes allies for the players, depending on the circumstance. One of the great things I think about them is their flexibility. They are obviously a warrior race. They share with certain peoples of the Flaness a cultural tendency towards nomadism. Yet they've also built cities and are in the process, in at least one case, of constructing an empire. They make interesting foils to the characters and to the forces of good and neutrality, I think.
Okay. So they are not just baddies running around slaughtering things in your game, correct?
It can be a little more complicated than that. I mean, we have only to look at the Vespa forest, for example. And you have, if memory serves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. You have
you have the
Torch of Grumsh.
Yeah, one of my favorites, there, and we'll discuss that. The Torch of Grumsh, because they are actually part of our adventuring group right here, and I have them placed right here on the board of the Defile Glades, and they hate IUs. Guarantee I'll talk about them tonight too, Les, because they're in the Markland set. They have a named leader. It's a fantastic story. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?
Exactly.
So the perfect area to do something that wonderful in. Yeah, you got that as a wonderful idea to make orcs actually fight on your side. So, by the way, so the winner will get 2 of these choice. Okay, normally it's treasures and adventure begins. So you get some Greyhawk lore, and then one of a bunch of different adventures. I'll make sure you get something you don't have. Okay, so I got a whole pile here of stuff, courtesy of Patrick Kane, Ancient Gamer. So we'll make sure we get you. I got some really good things. I think Baltrin's Beacon's in there still. Castanimir's in there. Some really good ones. So please feel free to sign up for that. If we crush a hype train of certain amount, then I'll double that. So is that all? No, Patrick, I can't hold. Patrick, I can't lift these piles, dude. No, I got plenty to relax. I got plenty, man. You're doing fantastic. So all right, Les, you've said a lot there. Give me an Anna too. Give me what you guys. There's like migration history of humans, but like the orcs are just there, right? Now we know the story between Grumsh and Corellin, right?
Yep.
We know the different versions of it too. The orc version and the elf version.
Yep.
Right. And yes, where they say, well, he was coward. Corellin was a coward, right? That's the story behind the orc version, and yeah. So. Yeah, very, very cool. What happens at that point? What happens in Greyhawk with orcs? Like, do they just hide out at this point in early days during those Sul migrations? Rain of Color is Fire. Where
I think that's the there's the other myth in which the humans and the halflings and everyone divide up the world by lot, right?
Yeah.
And basically, Grumsh, when he realized everyone's like, "Oh, poor Grumsh, your people didn't get anything," he proceeds to smack mountains and create, rifts and say, "This is where my people will go here, my people will go here, my people will eventually take all of it." And I kind of like that idea that from their perspective, they were ripped off. They were ripped off by everybody else,
right?
And that they will in time reclaim it. Tomorrow belongs to me, kind of thing.
True. Anna, how about your thoughts there?
It's kind of interesting. I studied the because I love demography and world building and stuff. So I started looking, where do orcs, according to, I took this because this one has population numbers by different races and stuff.
Yes.
So I looked through this and I had a suspicion, and I looked through the numbers here, and yeah, my suspicion was right. Meaning, I found there's 4 areas where orcs are more
largely
than a sliver. Yeah, more than 2%. I took they're mentioned by name, so to speak. They're listed as having a percentage. Otherwise, it's just others, so to speak. So there are 4 areas where orcs and humanoids in general, because they all seem to be either you have some of them or you have none of them, so to speak. So humanoids tend to be in 4 areas, and I'm going to list them because there's some interesting
we'll go right there on the map
to draw. Yep. So the first one is in the Bakloonish West, especially
Zeef.
In the northern, there's the first area that orcs and other humanoids seems to be having general part of the population, whether they're part of the current political structure or in resistance somewhere. I leave that out of the discussion for now and say, so they're part of the Bakloonish West. The next area is the biggest one, and that is the far north, from Vesti and Blackmoor in the west to Garel Enkdal near Stonefist in the east. That is like a band of humanoids north of the Fellreed, north of civilized land, so to speak. Even, strangely enough, even the Bandit Kingdoms doesn't have many humanoids listed in the population, only a few percent. So the half orcs, yes, but pure orcs and other goblinoids and orc-like creatures, they're not even listed in the Bandit Kingdom as having a percentage, so to speak. So, but they're still north of that, like in the Barrens and Blackmoor is, oddly enough, Blackmoor is the most diverse demographic area of any. Who could believe that? When I ran the numbers, this is on the just a quick, like an hour studying, so to speak. I haven't done the exact calculations, but from what I can judge from reading through all the population numbers, it seems to be the most diverse. It's probably the only realm who has significant populations, meaning more listed in percentages of everything, from elves, dwarfs, humanoids, orcs, whatever. Everything has at least some percentage. So it's a melting pot. And who knew that? It's kind of interesting that Blackmore is a melting pot, not only of humans and humanoids, but also of the different humans, meaning you have Baklooni, you have Erdi, you have Flan, you have basically everything.
Alderon's on too, and so he could probably explain what Arneson was thinking there.
Yeah, it's interesting that, but historically that makes sense, and we get to that a little bit later in the show, I think. And so that you have an interesting band, and I think the main reason for this is that that is outside of what Great Kingdom and civilized areas, so to speak.
Right.
So, and then we have the third area, and that's Bone March and the North Kingdom in the east. That's the third area of high concentration of humanoids. They are high enough in the 20, 30, 40% percentile, depending on how you calculate the and count the half orcs and stuff. So that's the third area. The fourth area is the one, kind of the most classic one from Greyhawk. That's used to be the Lort Mills and then ended up being the Pomarsh after the Hateful Wars.
My area of adventuring.
Exactly. Those are the only areas in the whole of the Flannies on the source books of Greyhawk that has any significant numbers. And so, to my surprise, Scarlet Brotherhood doesn't have a listed population percentage of orcs or any humanoids. So it's
they're not fans of them.
No, exactly. They're not, but I thought they kind of used them as mercenaries or something. So this is kind of interesting. Here I have like the basic numbers, and I like to go at even Greyhawk from a pseudo-scientific perspective, so to speak, and say, okay, we have the stories, we have the legends, and we have the numbers. What can we, general conclusions or hypotheses can we kind of draw from this? And one of the interesting, I want to, a couple of kind of conclusions that I want to draw for my own campaign, and then use that. I suggest others can use that as an inspiration, because you can want to draw different conclusions because you want to have a different type of Greyhawk campaign, so to speak. But one of them is that it seems like the humanoids are not native from here. They haven't been here for thousands of years. There's no history of old humanoid orcish empires and they were not fighting.
That was my original question there.
Yeah, exactly. So I get the sense that the humanoids have migrated in. The elves and the Flan seems to be the ones that have the longest roots, so to speak, here. And then the Erdi and the Sul came in and migrated in. And it seems like the humanoids have come in pretty much the same way, that migrating. And
I was just going to interject here.
Please.
I totally agree with you. One thing I would add in support of that actually doesn't come from a source on orcs. It comes from a source on elves. The second edition complete book of elves, which I know is much reviled, but has some useful little bits of lore in it.
Yeah.
When it's talking about the elves of the multiverse, the different worlds, it mentions that the elves of Greyhawk seem to be the closest thing to an original stock of elves. Like they are the oldest elves in the multiverse.
Yep.
In terms of settling down on a world. Now, my take on that would be that the same is probably quite true of orcs as well. That wherever they came from, they settled. And the other thing I think that you touched on that ties in nicely would be the idea of civilization and them existing at either the borders or the outskirts of civilization. I think that's an important thing, both in terms of the demographics and thinking about where these communities are established, how they establish themselves, why they establish themselves, and also in terms of how they react to other species. If you have a whole, if your environment is that small and that kind of resource, let's say resource reliant, you're definitely in a scarcity kind of situation in most orcish territories.
But the interesting thing, when you look at these four areas, there is one that kind of breaks the pattern a bit, because the Bakloonish West, they seem to have been
Integrated.
Integrated, yeah.
Exactly,
Orcs
they're
have, definitely.
integrated and they've been there for a long time. That seems to be like they're coming probably from the West originally. That's my sense. And the Northern band seems to be like they can have trickled in there early, and they can also have been thrown out there during the when humankind from Flan to especially Erdi and stuff got settled. The humanoids get pushed north, so to speak, and they had to get pushed out of the empire and civilized areas. And then the Bone March and the North Kingdom makes sense in the sense that they were probably the ones that are descendant of the mercenaries that was used by Great Kingdom in wars and stuff. That and also they were probably pushed out as well. So there you have one. But Lord Mills and the Pomarsh, I think, are the interesting ones because they break the pattern. They are in the middle of things where there has been Flan civilization, Elven and stuff for millennia, so to speak.
Hence why I love adventuring here. And why we've always been Sheldamar, Celine, Pomarsh from day one, because the stories behind, you know, the Lord Mills and the hateful wars and the and the Temple of Elemental Evil and everything that goes on in this area, and the elves, humans, and dwarves pushing the orcs and other humanoids out of these mountains, and they fled.
Yeah, but could it be that the hateful wars is just the last of a series of wars that meaning, let's say the humanoids were settled more around, and then they were pushed into the Lord Mills as a refuge earlier on, like 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years, 3,000 years ago, and then they settled there, and then as human and dwarven and elven population increase, and the kind of the maneuvering room was less and less for the humanoids, and they wanted them out, and eventually they ended up being thrown out all the way down to the Pomarsh.
Two things. Gary just put a key point in chat. Tolkien elves are corrupt. Tolkien orcs are corrupted elves. They're right, and they're also immortal. A lot of people don't realize that orcs are immortal, and just like elves are, which they aren't in Greyhawk. They don't live that long.
We don't get that exactly. We don't get that story really that they are corrupted
Sarah
elves.
Points
and
out that orcs
immortals.
evolved from beastmen. It's an interesting thought, and Notson, it is. I really hate. The more I think about, the more I dislike the Rennie coming in from another planet. I hate that. And
I don't like that. I skip that.
I hate that.
And,
and then when the nonsense said, well, maybe the orcs came in that way, man, not just as World of Warcraft coming through that portal and into a world where they weren't there before. Oh my gosh, it's just too World of Warcraft like.
Well, see, I think the difference between that and World of Warcraft would be the idea that some of these races could have arrived on Oath that way, but they don't remember that.
Okay.
It's not, because you'll notice it's not part of the orc mythology that they came through.
No, it's not.
And I don't think I might be mistaken, but even in the Forgotten Realms, I don't think it's part of their mythology, even though it's a given that they came through a gate. In Toril.
We'll ask Ed next time he's on about that specific question. Ed will tell us.
That's a good question. But I also think that
Jamie,
from a campaign perspective, I think you can either treat the myths as myths, so to speak, and then you can have some sort of real or others a real story, and you can have the mythical story, or you can simply say the myth is actually true and what happened in the myth was actually what happened, and then you set a date or some mythical era that you don't want to date, so to speak. But as a DM, if you run a long-term campaign, I think it's good that you as a DM figure out what you think what you really want to have happen, so to speak. So you know the truth and not tell the players about it. So
that would be one of the spots where I differ. For me, one of the things that comes up, and it's almost a recurring motif in the campaign, is that, say, the orcs have their version, the elves have their version, humans might have different faiths might have a different version. Like, for example, the Light of the Moons, right? Which of these is true? No one can really say. It's largely that these myths are ways of them justifying these different groups justifying their desires and existences.
Interesting.
And I'm not sure that in practical terms, I mean, I understand that it does in terms of causality, but in terms of where the player characters are, sometimes that deep history is going to remain hidden to them. And I prefer it that way. It's like, you know, I don't want, there are some questions I might have my own answer for, it's never going to get answered at the table.
Exactly. That's the thing. And depending on what style of campaign, meaning if you run a certain type of game, these questions are completely unnecessary to answer, so to speak. You don't need to. You can just have fun and play for years and not even care about these things. Orcs are cool evil dudes that you go out and slay, and where they originally came from doesn't matter. Or you run a kind of a very deep world building thing where you want to figure out where they come from in your take on the campaign and on the world, so to speak.
Because the other thing, and I guess this was something I was meaning to bring up earlier too, is interestingly enough, if we go back to the initial box set, the OD&D, you know, the 3 books, there are 4 named tribes of orcs, and they all derive their names from Tolkien.
Yeah.
You have the Orcs of the White Hand, you have the Orcs of Isengard, you have all these, and it's pretty clear, and it mentions that they're nothing. They resemble large goblinoids because that's what they are. Goblins because that's what they are. Now, if this does sound remarkably like Tolkien, yeah, it was obviously thrown in there.
Exactly.
And then you see it, you start developing when you get to deities and demigods and Roger Moore's article. You start seeing a differentiation and an attempt to do something that's maybe inspired by Tolkien but goes in a different direction.
It's part of Roger Moore's
yeah, but that's general part of D&D and the game setting and Greyhawk, especially since Greyhawk is that old. There was no other fantasy to fall back on. So a lot of this has been retrofitted in as it's been invented and developed, so to speak, and then retrofitted
Some
back.
part of me profoundly loves that as a sees it more almost at times as a feature rather than a bug. It's like can be incredibly beneficial.
Yeah.
And also creating a sense of mystery. You have these creatures that exist in the wilderness or in borderlands, and what do you know about them? They swoop down, and they tend to be nomadic. Not all of them are, but they tend to be nomadic. They swoop down, they kill everything, they haul off. They're extremely, they can reproduce like nobody's business. They're scary. Yeah,
they are definitely not living forever in Greyhawk. They are short-lived and brutal, and that way they kind of
multiply a lot.
Yeah, because that's their strategy of survival.
And they can breed. They can breed with anything.
Okay, yeah,
except elves.
And this, by the way, while we're on the topic, I might as well tie in the pig-faced orcs now.
Yeah, and that's why I got them up here. Yeah, so here, the original Monster Manual orcs.
So. What happened was, and this is according to Gary Gygax in a conversation on Dragon's Foot back in the day, right?
Okay.
Some people started asking him, so the hobgoblins in samurai-looking armor and the orcs with the pig heads, those were also done, if you remember the minifigs, I've shown you some of them before, I have some.
Yeah.
They were done in that same style. And someone was asking, did the miniatures come first or did the Monster Manual illustrations come first? And he explained that the Monster Manual illustrations came first. And in fact, that's where the miniatures looks were drawn from. Then it got into, well, so did they turn out the way you wanted? And basically, he said that he had envisioned the orcs as porcine in appearance, but not actually pig-faced. More like large upturned noses and small tusks jutting from their mouths, hairy bodies and small pig-like eyes. The hobgoblins I saw as apish in visage and build. But the illustration was published, and then of course the D&D cartoon was done, and they brought him the artwork, and he claims he was like, oh Lord. But of course that was the image everyone recognized from the Monster Manual and from the artwork that had been done, so they made it to the cartoon as well. And then the next question that was asked was someone asked him about the Gamorrean guards from Jabba's palace.
What, really?
Yeah. And he said he would have made them a little more human-like, but that look works too.
Wow. So wow, that's interesting. Pigfall. So
this was a conversation, by the way, in case you're wondering, on Dragon's Foot in March of 2007.
Okay, because the Gamorreans appear in the third. They don't. Are the Gamorreans wandering through Mos Eisley in the first one?
No, not in the original version.
Yeah, they're not. Okay. So that's 83. So orcs existed before that. So it's kind of a retro. He just right.
No, someone was asking him, well, would they make good? Do you think that they got the idea from you or whatever? And he's like, if you were using the miniatures of that or something, that would work. I would want them to be less pig-like, but yeah, that would work.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. Because a lot, the Roger Moore articles, if you look at the deities, I'll just bring up like Bactogru here. He doesn't look really, that's not pig-like really at all, you know?
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. They've kind of, and this is, this is early 80s. And you got,
Yeah, but you can notice the pushed-up nose and the larger teeth, which I think is what he was driving at with them.
the Hildebrand pig fakes orcs appeared immediately, and Monster Manual was the first publication out of the hardback books that came out in first edition. So I mean, they were, and there's Luthik, the cave mother. So it's an interesting thing. So for me, I have it that, and if you go to, I'm going to have to search for this. I apologize, but let's go to I Use the Evil. I got so many things opened up. I got to close a couple. I don't want to crash the stream because we wouldn't want to do that again now, would we? All right, let's go to I Use the Evil. And we have a lot of the Orcish clans in here, if I recall, correct? In the lands of Ayus. And that's why I really like this publication here. It's priesthood.
While you're looking, I was going to throw one other thing out.
Please do.
Which is, you notice in the first edition Monster Manual, they name some of the tribes, and of course, then the tribes wound up being mentioned by Gygax and Kuntz in their updates about what was taking place in the Greyhawk campaign in Dragon Magazine.
Right.
So, for example, the Vile Rune tribe.
Yep.
It establishes that those are in both the Bone March. So yeah, it's kind of neat to go through and see where some of these tribes would, as the game developed and as their sense of what orcs were developed, where they placed things, and specific tribes and groups.
So if you break this down, we got 4 major tribes in here, which the names come. Obviously, like Urzin is sounds like a Rukai a little bit. Like we'll make it similar. Selbit, Jebli, Kazgund, right? Kazgund almost sounds like what's the passage in Moria that they
Khazad-dûm.
Yeah, it's I think they're taking right from. So Jebli almost sounds goblinish to me. The name Jebli, and then you have Selbit.
Yeah, that's for goblins. Yeah.
Yours is a flam word. There you go. Well, thank you there, Gary, for hopping in there. Is an orc Welsh for pig?
I don't know Welsh.
I'm thinking that it derives from, among other things, if you're a fan of Beowulf and Old English poetry, Orcneus is a term for ogre or a monster like an ogre that lives in the wilderness and raids people. So
Orca is kill, so that's also interesting. Meaning orcas in Latin is kill. So
yeah, and of course you have going back, you also have the kind of demon. It eventually became in Italian orco for demon or a monster, something like that.
Oh yeah, so, exactly. Yeah, it comes
Orcus
from
demon,
Latin kill. Yeah, meaning orcas or killer whales. That's orcas,
exactly.
orca. So yeah.
So my thought was, this is my thought on the pig-faced orc, and you guys can say this is dumb. That's fine. I was thinking that the Jebli tribe was the pig-faced orc tribe. I was thinking it was tribal.
Oh, okay.
Because
that they're biological difference.
Yeah, because that's what that's just my thought on it.
You can have that.
That
they're different. That they've been separated so long that they have evolved into different looking.
Right.
That tends to be my take, a similar take. Except what I do is we've mentioned the regions where you find orcs, right?
Yep.
And obviously they're going to have some of them will be better fed than others.
Yeah.
Some of them will basically they developed along in a way similar to humans, where you do have the full pig-faced orc. You have some more Gygax would say porcine orcs. Rather
but you can, in fantasy world, you can also have other stuff, meaning they can worship a demon or something that reshapes them or something like that.
Chaos tainted, yeah. But yeah, the thing with that is and this is key to me, is as long as they're within the height variable, right? Because when I'm using miniatures, and I use miniatures,
yes,
sometimes you wind up with it's a 25 millimeter miniature, but it's cool, and everyone's using whatever 28 millimeter, but you can write that up to a height difference, right?
Yeah.
I do the same with my orcs. There are some bands of orcs that are somewhat shorter than others. There are some that are taller. There are some that have more pronounced pig-like features. There are others who just have the kind of pressed nose and horrible tusks. So it just varies according to region and tribe, and that also gives my players a sense of visual identity to each group, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It really does, and I like that, and I don't play it up that much. I just don't in the game unless it's specific to a certain campaign issue, because second edition really muddied the waters even further. We'll get into that with the Ogrillin Orog issue because that is a mess.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that about that. What a freaking mess that is. And my belief on how I played that up at the time, because they just all of a sudden the word Orog appears in Eyes of the Evil. Like, what the heck is an Orog? I didn't know. Because Sergeant was pulling from something. It's not in the monster manual. It's I believe it made a monstrous compendium. Ogre, yep. And ogres we'll talk about too, because ogres play a very important role in the with the Ogril and Orog connection there.
It's just kind of to me in my campaign it does come up simply because as much time as some of my PCs have spent in the Pomage, and sometimes you run across a band of orcs that aren't necessarily that loyal to
right.
Torishmak, say. So what you wind up with is if they run across those orcs again, they'll say, "Hey, wait, these are orcs that we've had dealings with."
Yeah.
So the visual component is kind of useful for them keeping track of that too, rather than, you know what I mean? It's a useful visual signifier so they can go, "Oh, we know these guys. These other orcs, they're bad news, but these guys we've dealt with."
It's from the first. All right, Monsters Compendium 1. There you go. So someone said about orcs in the Tolkien movies. Well, remember you're dealing with two different sets of orcs there. You're dealing with Uruk-hai orcs, and they seem to be made from the dirt or whatever. Which we'll get to that as well. You have Uruk-hai orcs, and you had Mordor orcs, and you see the Uruk-hai orcs are much more sturdier, darker, bigger, muscular. So it's a lot of interesting things. You can go a lot of directions with your orcs. So and someone. Don't start it. I know Josh will not be on tonight because he is he's in the UK and he's asleep already because he said, "I'm going to bed. I won't be on tonight." I'm like, "That's fine. That's not a problem there." So, all right. Some thoughts now on the campaign itself. Let's talk about the areas. I know Gary's on, so why don't we start in Gary's wonderful area, and let's talk, Les, what you've done because you're playing here now, right? Or still?
Spine Castle in the Bone March.
Yes.
I believe a couple of my players are in chat, and they'll be throwing things at me and cursing me as soon as I mention. Oh yeah, because it's all in good fun.
We have a lot of people who don't understand what happened at Spine Castle. Give us a synopsis of the early 550s, 560s.
Yeah, it fell. It fell to a humanoid horde. It had never faced anything like that before. Gary can of course correct me in chat if I'm wrong, but I believe the general backstory was that while Spine Castle was besieged, a group of orcs and gnolls emerged from underneath the keep itself. That would basically, and there's a strong implication that they managed to come up from basically the region's version or equivalent of the Underdark, which is a reason why the keep itself is avoided, even though the city is occupied. The city now is in the hands of orcs who are being backed by the Church of Hextor. There have been rumors for ages, and I'm putting it this way because this is how players would probably experience it.
Cool.
The North Province had a hand in Spine Castle's fall as part of a geopolitics. Yep. And right now it's a city it's moved a little past the city that you see portrayed in the article that Gary authored, in that the population has swollen. Other humanoids and other creatures from the mountains, ogres have figured that there might be, hey, we no longer have to go raiding. We can just go into this city. And some of them find employment, but you have to think about what employment for an ogre would look like. And you wind up with traditionalists who are yearning to return to the ways of their forefathers. You're looking at others who, well, let's return to the Church of Grumsh. Let's look at the terror of the enslaved human population. You have humans who set up shop who do business with the orcs. You have various gangs helping out. It's basically the way that I pitched it to my players was, I want you to think of every Italian Mad Max ripoff and sword and sorcery film from the 80s. And I want you to imagine that costume department running like a World War II thriller behind enemy lines.
All the Death Stalkers.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and that's basically what it is. And the players are never sure who they're going to offend from day to day. They're never sure if, oh Lord, we just wound up in debt to this person. Does this mean we're slaves now? They're not sure from day to day because this is a completely alien environment to them, and it's an alien environment to the orcs themselves in many ways. You have a group of orcs. In this case, right now it's the Bloody Eye, which in my campaign I incorporated. I had the Vile Rune orcs absorbed into the Bloody Eye, and there's currently a coup going on, which my players will find out about when they emerge.
Spoiler alert!
Yeah, spoiler alert, you're walking out into a coup. But basically what's going on is that they weren't necessarily the best prepared to take over the infrastructure of a city. So they, even with the blessing of Hextor's temple, they still have to negotiate with humans. Then you have orcs who, like I said, would just as soon see that undermined. You have gnolls who would just as soon see that undermined.
Right.
It's an incredibly tense and fun situation.
It's a mess because I can't see the gnolls and orcs working together.
Oh, they don't. They live in separate sections of the city. They detest each other.
Right. It's kind of funny, actually.
And it's like, basically, the way I explained it is the Hextorites feel like they're babysitting a bunch of homicidal infants. The gnolls are basically refusing to give up bragging rights. They it's basically, okay, look, we marked this territory, and we just as soon see everything burn down. But until it does burn down, and until we've proven you wrong, we're holding on to this, and we're going to make your lives hell. And then you have gnolls underneath them, because some of those gnolls have converted to the worship of Erythnol. You have other gnolls who are like, this is completely unnatural. We need to go back to looting and pillaging in the good old-fashioned Inagu ways. The Erythnolites want to see everything smashed too. It's a huge mess of different factions, that several of which want to see the city burn.
Which is going to happen at some point. The city's going to fall.
Oh, yes.
It's going to fall into. It's going to be uninhabitable by anyone. It's going to, at some point, is my opinion. But that's awesome. I mean, it's kind of a great place to jump in an adventure.
Oh yeah, and one of the other things that I've worked into this, and I think you'll appreciate this, is that in my deep history, the orcs, of course, have a mother goddess.
Mm-hmm.
Luthic.
And in my deep history, the Flan of the Wild Coast, as well as some of the northern areas, basically saw her as a chthonic aspect of Beori. The cave, she is the cave mother after all. And so there were Flan who early on mixed with the orcs. And basically that set up a whole tension between different tribes of Flan, which led to them being expelled. So you already had a half-orc population. Well, orcs with human heritage have even more reason to resent the human population.
Yeah.
Interesting.
In that they see themselves as having been worshiping, the mother in her cave mother aspect.
So that's a great thing, way to get half-orcs introduced into the game. Long time ago.
Yeah. I thought
like it.
so, and
I
I
like
like
it.
the idea again of it being, you know, this primitive. I've mentioned before in my campaign that there are these different groups that have worshipped different aspects of the Oath Mother,
Mhm.
including the chthonic or subterranean or, you know, the tomb aspect, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked that into this backstory. And it's been basically, this has been going on since the beginning of the campaign in different parts of the world where people have been uncovering little clues of that this happened. And the players, if they piece them together, will be able to figure out, oh God, you mean some of these orcs that we're fighting are descended from humans. They were mixed back then. It was an outcast tribe of you know, they were rejected by the other clan.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Mm-hmm.
Gary says, you know, the Dark Dwellers are a region of the Underdark I don't
Yeah.
talk about too much. It sounds like it's not dark elvish Underdark. It's like the top layers of the Underdark where all the humanoids are fighting, and the you know, if they're dark elves, they're not really.
there's a bit of that, and just to add to it, because something went wrong, like I said, something horrible happened. Nobody wants to go. There are rumors that the orcs, an initial wave of orcs and gnolls who went into the keep itself, Spine Keep itself, that many of them went mad. And no one wants to go back into the keep, right? There's supposed to be great amounts of treasure and loot still there, but it's a bad, bad place. And to me, it's not only just those upper layers where you have humanoids, but there were other things that had been hidden and buried. There was a flan stone circle where the Victory Gardens in Spine Castle now are. Then that became a burial ground for the Futsi, I believe. And then eventually the stones were taken down and used to reinforce the walls and such, and the area became the Victory Garden in Spine Castle. And again, you think stone circle, and you begin thinking portals, you begin thinking gates, you begin thinking of other examples of stone circles in the world of Greyhawk, and you begin wondering if there was something deeply wrong underneath Spine Castle, something that might have seeped up. And might slowly be feeding on and feeding into the madness that's taking place.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And one last point I'll make is that one of the reasons I love this as a setting is that with the Hexerites and with the orcs, and you know, some of the orcs seeming like the best possible choice at the moment. What you wind up with is a situation where, say, a lot of places, like you go to the land of Ayus or you go to the Hells or whatever, you risk spiritual corruption, right, from outside. The thing that I love about Spine Castle is that the corruption comes from your choices. Everything, any choice you're going to make is going to compromise you.
Yep, I see that too.
Matter of how much blood do you have on your hands, and how much can you take?
I love this discussion on Spine Castle because this is one of the places where it has nothing to do with Ayers at all. So if you say, oh, Ayers is everywhere in Greyhawk, no. This has nothing to do with Ayers at all.
There's a lot of areas there has very little to do with Ayers. Or
the layman doesn't know that, right?
And if I can I'll segue to another area which
sure.
You mentioned earlier, Geralt Enkdal. Just so you know, as Gary's article mentions, the High Priest of Grumsh in Spine Castle, who set up shop, I believe it was, let me double check here. Yeah, he is in an abandoned and looted shrine of Faltus. And he set up a temple to Grumsh there. In Spine Castle's Candle Ward, but he is from, or claims to be from, originally Geralt Enkdal. And is promoting, you know, the orcs' return to the old ways, since it served them so well in that city. And I was going to recommend here, even though since he's not here, Mike Mortellin has over on his blog, he has a great entry where he develops Geralt Enkdal considerably.
Yep.
For those of you who aren't familiar, Geralt Enkdal is an underground orc city up in the Griff Mountains. And I believe it made its first appearance in Carl Sargent's 5 Shall Be One.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
And it has some great NPC orcs, including I believe he goes by the name
Here it is.
Bloodsocket.
There it is.
Bloodsocket is a shaman / chief who, whenever he's going into battle rage, the eye socket where he plucked his eye out for Grumpsh, his eye socket fills with blood and begins pouring out blood, which I think is just such a nice visual touch. But he's one of the he's one of the baddies who you kind of have to cross swords with in my campaign. I assume he's still alive, older but still alive.
Well, hopefully you didn't give away too much to your players there. If any of them
I
are...
didn't. Trust me, I didn't. They still have about 37 more curveballs coming. And yeah, also I agree with Gary right quick. He gave a lot of great. Jason Zavoda contributed a lot of great material, including some stuff on the orc NPCs over on his blog.
I'm going to risk something. Give me 1 second here as you were talking. I think, am I mistaken? I'm going to check tabletop events real quick. I think someone may have put in a Spine Castle event.
I did.
Yes, that's it. A spine.
Yes,
you did. Let me see if I can find it. This is all in listing of. Oh my gosh, Captain's. What was the name of it again? Do you remember?
Servants of the.
There it is, Single-Eyed Skull.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Servants of the Single-Eyed Skull. Hextor priesthood uses select orcs as the public face of what passes for law in Spine Castle, but challenges emerged in the form of a cult serving an entity called the Single-Eyed Skull. Even traditionalist serving groups aren't safe from the Skull's followers. Nice. Saturday, October 1st, 1 p.m. CDT.
And just so everyone knows, I'm going to go ahead and mention this. It's going to be the Single-Eyed Skull adventure. Will feature the pre-gens will include a priest of Hextor and an orc mercenary. So but weirdly you're the good guys in this.
Yeah, which is really cool.
So,
that is really, really cool. Yeah. Note we have 26 adventures in or events in so far. We don't have even the Greyhawk Reborn ones yet, and a lot of the live streamers have not put theirs in yet. So we got a ways to go. We're in good shape. But just wanted to say there is a Spine Castle event in there from Les, one of the 2 events he put in. So if you're interested in figuring out what's going on in there, you know that game will be sold out within the first 5 minutes of signups on August 15th. I have no doubt about it. So that's old school rules too.
Yep, AD&D.
Yep,
money, man.
So the biggest of all we know is the Pomage, right? By far.
Yes, indeed.
And if we go, Joe blocks this article out of, and we just had Joe on Gabbin on Sunday.
See the Pomage and die. Yeah.
Here is a great article.
It's the most developed, definitely. Yeah.
Yep.
The most developed from this. Now there are, I think I have the tribe totals here. Yeah.
Yeah, that was so useful.
Yeah, the tribe total here, and it just has warriors down and locations. And then Anna from that has placed, and that's why I wanted to try and do. There's some cross referencing here. That's where Anna's done a lot of where these locations of these are, based off of that. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's based on 2 things: that article and now I need to remember a British guy, Roger something. I forgot, but he did some writing and stuff that was supposed to have been published, I think, in Dragon, but never got published, and I used those articles too.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Alderon, talk to me, and I'll help you out. All right, just talk to me, and we can work something out, man. If you're gonna be away, just let me know. I'll help you. All right. Especially if you've already logged on. All right. So this area kind of is a mess too, and I'm only saying that. I'm saying that in a loving sort of way, because you have Terashmak, who may or may not be some goofy theg gnarlet person, or that's just
I have the name. Sorry, Paul Luby.
Paul Luby, Paul Luby,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
I think Paul's been hanging out in the Cannon Fire Discord.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Here at Kellen Lakos, so you have humans running the place. Then you have, the Tarashmak, the slavers, you have a lot of other things going on here. You have Blue, which is the least developed town I know of that needs developing here.
Hmm.
And you got all sorts of you got gnolls, hobgoblins, everything else here, but orcs are throughout the area. And in my campaign, you have this border that's not that's being defended, but and we have our orcs running through the Sust all the time. Another major area, running in, raiding Selene, raiding in, into the. We actually have an adventure called Patriots of Ulick, where this whole area gets defended. It's a second edition adventure. It's not. It's a battle system adventure in the fight. That's why it's not that great, but it gives you an idea of at least it was developed. At least it was written up. So you got a lot going on in this area, and this seems to be the number one enclave, the largest by far of area of enclave of humanoids, in particular orcs, that you have in the entirety of Greyhawk, which I like. I like it because you're never running out of enemies. In fact, the adventure I'm going to have with John next week is going to go. We're going to go into the Pomarsh. So there you go.
Nice.
Yep.
The in my one of the things I was going to mention was with the slavers module. I gotta admit, I wasn't a fan of the whole blurring the lines with Tourish Mac thing. So what I did was, in my campaign, that's simultaneously true and not true, in that for the sake of convenience, once that adventure's has run its course in my campaign's history, another Tourish Mac took control of things. And it turns out that the Slavers and the Scarlet Brotherhood and his other outside allies don't have as much control over this puppet as they did with a Tourish Mac who was actually a member of the Slavers.
Okay.
So they're kind of but as far as the world is concerned, Tourish Mac survived, right?
Yeah. So it's one of those things where Sargent writes up from the ashes, and they go way up here, right, taking out all these towns, and then the Slavers come, and Primus and Cordell decide. I'm sorry, Primus and Reynolds decide we're going to make some changes. We're going to make some changes because we don't like what was written there. And I mean, we even had oh my gosh, Roger Moore come on and say I didn't like a lot of the stuff that Sargent did, so we're gonna do a lot of it with the Crook of Rao and thing, and I get it. And so the Pomarsh it's not this super stronghold where it's not. It's basically almost Bandit Kingdom like for humanoids.
Well, since you mentioned that, that's one of the other things. And this is where one of my players got her goblin sidekicks. That as the I kind of followed some of the events in Living Greyhawk in terms of Blackthorn and the potential invasion through the Blackthorn and troops being moved through the Underdark. I liked these ideas, but what I did with that is that there's an increasing number of, as Tourish Mac pushes north and keeps trying to, has his designs, on Greyhawk, divers, etc. There are orcs who don't want to submit. There are orcs who don't, and goblins and other creatures, other humanoids, who don't want to bend the knee to Tourish Mac. They're quite content with the way things are.
Right.
And they if these are potential allies, provided that they don't get wiped out, of course. They are still goblins. They are still orcs. They are still, nasty little buggers. But they can be your nasty little buggers as opposed to his. And another thing that I developed, and this comes up in the Spine Castle thing too, is the idea of the Gervot, which is my own creation. They were, it's touched on in Slavers that you have basically child soldiers being trained. In Eldred, I think. And basically that's it. The goblinoids and orcs who refuse to submit, their young are taken, and same with some humans who refuse to submit. And basically, the parents are slaughtered in front of them, the children, and they're told, you know, you have nothing to protect you now, nothing except Dorishmak, or nothing except for the Lords of Spine Castle, whatever. And we are going to train you. We are going to give you a purpose. And this enters into another degree. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't recommend that for all campaigns, but it enters in another degree of moral ambiguity and another tension, in that you have
that happens here too.
Yeah.
They turn them into myrmidons.
Yep.
Right in the Slaver's book, where they take all the youth that are there, if they take it over, and they start training them all in the ways of fighting the myrmidon. I think the guy who was a mercenary, and he's neutral. He just, hey, I'll do this job, right?
Yep.
So,
and the thing is that, like, the ones who show the best or worst, however you want to look at it, capacity for killing, wind up being recruited into this group, the Gervat. So the chosen. Or the blessed, depending on the translation.
Yep, that's cool, man. So, just going through some of the things here. Nothing's perfect, right? So you can develop your Pomars, you can develop your Spine Castle, however you want, right? Now, Anna, let's flip up top here, because I know Anna's going to have some discussion here on this, because her Horn Society doesn't have a lot of orcs. It's mostly hobgoblins, right?
I have some orcs, but that they live further north. The orcs in my campaign, they are in two main areas. They're in the Howling Hills, and then there are around Kuskund. So they are not in Horn Society. They are in
okay.
So my Horn Society has, in the north end, is the Hoch Jeblai tribal lands of Maglubiet. So that's where the hobgoblins, goblins, and Norkers hang out, so to speak. That was their enclave. They were not formally part of the Horn Society back in the day, but they had their protection, so to speak. The Horn Society let them be there as a resource to use, and as long as they didn't come mess south too much, they were fine, so to speak. And they hired them as mercenaries and stuff like that. So that was kind of a resource and labor pool to have as needed, so to speak. And it was also a buffer to more chaotic stuff further north, so to speak. So that was the east of the Oppig River. They have the various goblinoids, so to speak, and north of them there are the lands of Kuskund. That's home of I would say, the most civilized orcs I have in my campaign up there. They are the ones that aspire to be more kind of civilized and so on. They're ruthless and all that, but they are more organized rather than civilized, so to speak. They're organized, they work together, they have a functioning economy. And the city of Kuskund, it's a city by that little lake that is, it looks like three rivers going. Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, there is hang on a second. I can share this map I'm using with everybody in chat here. So please do. Go in and you can see, this is my campaign version of the map. It's not up to date as much. So there are errors on this map that I haven't fixed. So it's not the 2022, it's the 2022 edition of my campaign map. So it's up to date in my campaign areas, and then kind of bad in some other areas, so you have to live with it. But if you go north of the Horn lands or Horn Society, you comes to the lands of Kuskund, and that is the most organized orcs in my. They represent. They have a key position in the empire of Ayus, or the old empire. They have a kind of a center stage, so to speak. Ayus relies on them for a lot of logistics and holding some of the center of the empire. So they are not as super warlike, and so they're organized. They want to aspire and be reliable to some degree and get paid for it, so to speak. So they're the top. Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I have a question actually pertaining to that. First, I was going to mention to you, you'll be pleased to know that, and I'm sure you already know this, that in that piece on Spine Castle that Gary co-authored, the hobgoblins in Farendar, I believe it's Farendar Keep, just outside of Spine Castle, have masked advisors who call themselves the Horned Ones.
Oh, awesome!
And, one of the background things that my players have kind of glean to is that, yeah, the hobgoblins who pulled out of Spine Castle and went to that keep are being, you know, aided, if you will, by the remnants of the Horn Society.
Yeah.
And of course, the orcs are being backed by the North Kingdom and Grenell and the Hexterites. So there's a nice little tension between the.
Yep.
What I was going to ask you was, I'm sorry, Jay.
No, go for it. I didn't have the most updated map up there, so.
No, you have a version of the 576 map that is
right,
the
right.
2020 edition or 2019
this is the right
edition.
Map now.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So and my campaign map, I developed this area heavily. So there's tons and tons of stuff here.
That's great.
For my campaign, that is so I really wanted to develop the evil areas a lot, so to speak.
The IUs thing actually ties into something that comes up in Sargent's book that I wanted to raise, and I was curious to see how you guys deal with this, which would be that the Sargent mentions at one point that the some of the orcs will, as soon as IUs' priests come and boss them around, as soon as they turn their back, those orcs will just spit on the ground where those priests were. It's like basically, we're going to do this because it works to our benefit as well, right? A mercenary kind of situation.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there are going to be orcs who, for whatever reason, decide to worship IUs as well.
Yeah, I have
and I was wondering how you deal with, you know, the idea of assimilation. I don't want to say assimilation because it's not quite that, but the idea that they convert to human gods or non-orc gods versus the ones that stay faithful in their way to their gods.
Yeah, I have it that there are different orcs and dealt with this in a different way. The ones in Cuskund, they have become less, so meaning they have their traditional orc shamans and stuff like that goes around helping them a little bit by healing them if need be, or kind of tend to them and in some spiritual matters, so to speak. But they try to de-emphasize it and there even the occasional orc priest are used there in order. But I think most of the Cuskund orcs see them as political. They are like the special envoy of the clan leader or the whoever runs the show in their settlement, so to speak, or their clan or whatever is down from the tribal area, so to speak. So they try to formalize and they accept IU's rule much more. And then you have the other one, or the Ursuns up in the Howling Hills. Yeah. They are, meaning they like IUs because they dig things out of the mines and stuff, and they sell to IUs, and IUs give them meat and booze and all sorts of yummy stuff and treasure and stuff. So I think that's a transactional thing, so to speak.
Definitely. That was the reason. The reason I was asking that, and I was actually coming to the point Gary raised in chat. That, for example, in the North Kingdom, you now have tens of thousands of orcs, you know, organized by the Church of Hextor. Yeah. They were basically serving as mercenaries or militaries for Grenell. But now, of course, they're there. Yeah. And there's tension between the old military, if you will, the old guard, if you will, of the North Kingdom. Yep. Planning to go to their lives. And then you have a bunch of orcs who've now moved in and are engaged in military activity. Those kinds of tensions are always interesting to me.
Yeah, and the way I've seen it in Horn Society and IUs is that in old Horn Society, meaning IUs have kept the hobgoblins and goblins and Norkers and the goblinoids in what used to be Horn Society, and then rely more heavily on orcs within his own land, so to speak, because they are. So but he uses the hobgoblins and goblins more like shock troops and cannon fodder down in the wars, and then the orcs and so on to more reliable mid-level and some of the like special forces and stuff. If he really wants to get a job done, he sends some orcs down there. And also the Ursun is the same thing, meaning if you're a capable orc fighter from the Ursun, you can earn some money by serving in IU's armies for a couple of years. And then if you survive, you can go home and you can have some loot and you can be a hero and then you're damn good, so to speak, because you're leveled up and you learn to fight properly against real enemies. And he also wants to keep, IUs also have a thing because he can keep the more kind of warlike tribal less sophisticated, so to speak, orcs up that can be a threat to order in the empire, keep them on the borders because they're perfect to keep others away, and they're also a bulwark against wolf nomads raiding. Ursuns are capable enough to keep the wolf nomads at least reasonably at bay. And then you have the southern area, so to speak, towards Vestvi. That's a problem, so to speak. So that means that you have the Ghibli lands of Island. That's where he sends goblins and others he sends them to the front lines there, so to speak. So he can waste them. So he sends them. Oh, you can go and live there and cause. And then he tried to have orcs and humans to manage them, so to speak.
See, I think this addresses a problem that came up in or very early in the OSR about orcs, which would be, why not just use evil humans? And here would be my answer: it depends on what you're using them for.
Yeah,
I think that there are some, and there's nothing wrong with this, but I'm saying there are some instances where orcs are deployed just as, a generic evil force to be killed.
Yeah,
but when they have a motivation or they have their own interests, even though if those interests are evil, it makes them far more interesting.
Yeah, and exactly. And I also think that from Ayu's side, he wants to build an empire for the future, so to speak. Yeah. He wants to hang on to power, meaning he's trying to meld and use the various groups and humanoids and stuff, and kind of put them to good use, but also try to cause a little bit of tension so they don't gang up on him, but also exactly, but also separate them enough so they can do a decent job and towards the enemy. And in my campaign, Ayus has a primary problem now. It's 15 years after the war. It's 598, soon 599. So the problem is that during the war, his armies were fed and paid by looting. They basically stole whatever they wanted and needed from the enemy. The problem is that almost all the enemies have learned how to deal with the Ayus now. I mean, for Yundi, Shield Lance and Ernst and others, they have now, the war went into a stalemate and ended at a stalemate. So now there is no easy pickings for Ayus anymore. So he's now a dilemma. He needs to start opening the coffers and pay his troops, or they will desert on him and go on raiding him, or just go on doing whatever they want to do and not follow his orders. And that puts him in a very dramatic cash flow, meaning he has coffers full of gold, but these bastard orcs and humanoids are supposed to pay him, not the other way around. So he suffers from his own greed and evil. That limits him now. He is now in that bind that a lot of totalitarian rulers and evil empire runners end up with. When the loot runs dry, you have to start paying your troops, and that means that he's in a bind now, which way to go, so to speak.
And to distract them, can you really afford letting them loose on another front?
Exactly, because he can't just send them out to be slaughtered, because they figured that out, meaning they're not the smartest tool in the shed, but 5 years of being slaughtered on the front lines, they kind of figured that out, that they don't want to do that anymore. Then they can go and get slaughtered, killing the bastards that sent them there, so to speak. So, and they're evil, so they kill anyone they feel they don't like, so to speak. So,
and I just wanted to, while we're on the subject of it's a kind of tangential area, but I wanted to say as well that when you're developing orcs or some of their kin, I'm sure we'll come to the Orogs and whatnot in a moment. But the idea, a resource that I think is invaluable would be monster mythology by Sargent.
It's a great
because
book.
I love the idea. Here's the kind of thing that I'm talking about is, say your players have infiltrated through whatever means, stealth, disguise, a half orc, one of them's a half orc, whatever, this war band, and you suddenly see the Orog, who is their chieftain and shaman, his chainmail starts running with blood, and it's not his. Now, what that is it's an omen. It's one of the omens described in that book for followers of Ilneville. Basically, when he's sending his followers a sign, the intermediary's armor starts running with blood, And I think that's just a brilliant kind of thing to have. Just imagine your player characters, one of your player characters is spying on a bunch of orcs.
Yeah.
And then suddenly this shaman and chieftain's armor starts bleeding. And they all start chanting. I mean, yeah, great kind of dramatic moment.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and he's more of a captain's god than a god of the common orcish soldier. Yep. So that's pretty cool. Yep.
And I love one of Grumpsh's I actually love, which is basically the youngest shaman in the group. There's a snapping of his neck. I love that for an omen, just like, you know, the young priest snap. There you go.
And I have it when I use and his relations with the other humanoid deities, as long as the humanoids in his empire and surroundings fear him more than they fear their own gods, he's happy, so to speak. That's what as long as they fear his clerics more than the shamans from the other humanoid deities.
Threat,
then he's happy. So he rules mostly by fear and greed. Those are his two. He bribes people, he bullies them. Those are his two methods of empire building.
Absolutely.
All right, some questions for everyone here. It's just if you can put a yes or no in chat too. How many of you allow half orcs to be played as PCs in your game?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Half orcs and half ogres. Both.
It depends on the campaign. I would definitely see a campaign when half orcs will be the main. This campaign, no, and most campaigns, no. But definitely, certainly, it will be based on campaigns. No. I'm very thematic in my campaigns. I might not even allow elves in certain campaigns. Like this campaign was a human-only campaign. I can have like an elf, half elf, and I could definitely see doing a half orc campaign in the future.
Okay. Yep. So, if you read from the original monster manual, it says that half orcs, are part of that mix, and that only 10% of them can pass for mostly human. Most of them don't.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that gets forgotten a lot or not, but half orcs have become civilized in a lot of areas. They're like 10% of the population of Hardby.
Yeah, but I can see that different types of half orcs, meaning you have the half orcs that are first generation half orcs, meaning you have one parent of each.
Right.
And then you have all half orcs that have become their own population. They've been half orcs for maybe 20, 30 generations, and they are their own population, so to speak, that have assimilated and neither have any close relationship, at least biologically or ethnically, with either humans or orcs. They have been half orcs for many generations, and therefore they can be so in that way half orcs they're not a unified group in any way. They are kind of very different, so to speak. They're also different.
Yeah, they can. The point I'm trying to make is that they can suffer from social limitations, but dark elves suffer from way worse social limitations, and they can be, if we're talking about arcana, allowed. But I have no problem with playing half orcs. There's even half orcs in the Order of Ulick, which is fine. And I just looked it up. I was curious. I have 13 different classes a half orc can be in my game.
Yeah,
and especially priests.
I don't see any class limitations on half orcs, so to speak. And but I also see that racism is rampant in lots of places in Greyhawk for good reason, so to speak. Very, very, very rampant.
That's when I've had my players do half orcs, that comes up.
Yeah. Depending
on where they are, but if it's someplace, like there are a lot of people who along the Wild Coast who kind of resent the fact that the good chunk of the coast was seized by Torishmak. Even if that wasn't the case, you'd still have even if you erase Torishmak from the equation, you still have all the raiding and everything else.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be trusted or liked.
No, and I also see it works both ways. Meaning humanoids hate elves and dwarves and most humans and stuff too, and see them as inferior assholes that they need to get to, so to speak, for a lot of justified and a lot of unjustified reasons, so to speak. So I see racism, and just to be clear to anyone viewing this afterwards, I see that as evil, and I see it as hate and hateful behavior behavior and stuff as evil in my campaign. But I want evil things in my campaign in order to fight it, so to
Yeah.
speak. So I want evil things like slavery and hate and racism and stuff to be in my campaign as kind of things that are evil that needs to be protected against and fought and so on and so forth. Those are part of
Well, you gotta have
opponent's
both. You
tactics.
know,
Yeah,
you
need
it's a very
evil
boring game
things
about evil.
exactly. That's part of the drama, so to speak. So I wanted to say that. Yeah.
And note this, that there's a lot of this going around, and we don't
Oh, yeah.
touch this for 10 seconds. Oh, you know, orcs aren't inherently evil. Well, yeah, they are.
No, I don't have them inherently evil. No,
Well,
it's not. It's not in their biology. In my
No.
campaign. No, it's just that they have
Yeah.
very many. If you grow up in an area that are run by an evil cult of some sort, you have a bad start in life, so to speak. It's kind of tough, and especially if you, and some of them might be. Some monsters might be bred like maybe aboleths or something. They are constructed by a demon who spits them out or something. So there are some monsters, but I don't see orcs as inherently evil. No, but I see them as most of them have the unfortunate fate of growing up in cults or very, very harsh areas, so to speak, run by the worst scum of the planet.
Yeah. Tribal.
And let's face it, in Orcish culture, if you were to raise a question, hey, I don't know if this looting and pillaging thing is all that. You'd be hacked to ribbons.
But I don't think it's wrong to run a campaign saying that my orcs are inherently evil. They're constructed by a demon or made from blood of a whatever or something like that. It's fantasy. You can have that. So it's just, I think that's something each DM should start thinking how you want to run it and come up with, but think about the consequences, whatever you choose, the nurture or the whatever way. And I don't think there's wrong one way or the other. Just shape the world that is interesting, consequential, and makes for interesting games.
I was trying to make this step from orcs to half orcs, and half orcs are not inherently evil. Is the step I was trying to make. With, you know, they got a human aspect to them, and they got, you know, it's just. But hey, each one, each one is a little different in. Each GM can be different in that.
And alignment works different in different campaigns, meaning there's a lot of good gaming literatures written on how you treat evil, good, and law and chaos and stuff. And you can run those in very different ways. So
Absolutely.
So there's not one right way of doing this, definitely.
So we got the half orcs, and they're player characters in my game, and the majority of your games are player characters. So I think it was about 80%, which is cool. So let's jump to this now. Whoops! I did it, Tim, again. There's a mongrel singing about that.
That's kind of appropriate today.
Okay, very appropriate there.
Yeah.
Let's bring up some pics here, and I pulled out this. And this is unfortunately, this one is more Forgotten Realms based, and then we're going to go to our normal picture of our Grillin, our favorite neighborhood of Grillin.
Oh yeah, you got that.
Yeah, so in the Fiend Folio, you breed an orc with an ogre, you get this.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, a lot of those illustrations are kind of
this is an old this is an Ogrillin. Yeah, it probably
Hulk smash.
Like
exactly.
a zombie or something to me that
Hulk smash.
Yeah, it was not a great picture. What's that? How do I do what? Tails, every normal. Gary, you got me confused, man. What? Hitting the wrong button?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. You have to hold up your Elgato little thingy.
This
there you
thing,
go. Yep.
hitting that wrong button.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I go into scene 14 and scene 13, I was getting confused because they're reversed on Gavin. So I don't know why. I'm just stupid when it comes to that. So
you have to have the same every show.
I should, but that way it adds to the use of the wrong button thing. All right. So the Grillin is a orc ogre crossbreed, according to Fiend Folio, which is a publication from 1981. They have good enhanced armor class. They get 2 attacks per round with their fists. They got like 1801 strength, if I recall, maybe even higher. But then they kind of go away when 2nd edition comes around, and then you get these Orogs. and they appear in Eyes the Evil. And for the life of me, when I first got there, I was a little confused because I couldn't find anything anywhere on them. So I didn't know what to do with the Orog, and I was thinking to myself, this is not an orc. It doesn't sound like an orc. I didn't have access to any of this stuff. So I said, well, I kind of like what they did in Lord of the Rings, Saruman did with Uruk-hai, and he's breeding specific. He's making these super orcs, right? That can. So I made the
Uruk-hai,
I made the Orog an orc that is an adventuring type that can gain levels. That's what I kind of made my Orogs in my campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, somewhere, hey, good to see you, Gabriel. Somewhere, someone said, if the female is the orc in the orc ogre thing, it's an Agrillin, but if it's the ogre is the female, it's the Orog. I'm like, my head was about to explode with that.
Yeah.
So
that was at one point the canonical explanation, Jay.
Yeah.
Yes.
But things like that can be interesting if you use it for the social or for the kind of the campaign background, and you can put it into the stories, and people use different explanations and stuff. But or you can, if you like game mechanics, you can have it actually affect game mechanics. I will skip the game mechanics part and just use it as background lore. So when they talk to the locals and start asking you about who came, and the local will say, oh, it's an Agrillon or blah 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 coming something, and it means a lot to the locals, but no one else who's not from that area will not call them that, and that can lead to interesting confusion, and that needs to be investigated and figured out and stuff like that. So but you can treat it differently, or you can say it has clear game mechanics implications too.
Well, here is the one line that gives me a caveat, I think. Hey, Thacker Tuesday, great name. It says right here, the Neo Orog is a magical, okay, so that gives me the Saruman idea, of ordinary orcs, ogres, and other creatures not specified right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I'm thinking, well, maybe there's a little human thrown into them. Hence the adventuring point, and that's just where I get my get out of jail free card there. What's your thoughts on the Agrillin, Les, and the Orog? What do you do about them?
What do I do about them?
You just ignore them both.
No. Orogs are pretty key in my campaign.
Okay.
I really do dig the idea of them, also because they're slightly smarter than the average orc. And they're basically I like both as ideas. I'm not sure I completely buy into the witch mother blah blah blah.
Yeah, I don't.
So
either.
basically, to me, it's like a birth thing. Sometimes when they're mixed with ogres, they can turn out as Orogs. Sometimes they turn out as Ogrillons.
That's an interesting way too.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yep.
So it's by experimentation.
Well, yeah,
it's trial
like
and error.
Yeah. All right.
It's like
I like that.
Certain, leopards are black and certain leopards are spotted, so to speak, or non-black. You can have like the kind of a some genetic lottery or something. Yeah.
In my game, there aren't Orog tribes. Very few Orogs in the Pomarsh. Because I have them Iusian based in my game. That's just what I've done to set it up. Because it's specifically, another thing it states in, and we're right here, it states that the Torch of Grumsh, which is here, I think they're Selbits. They're tribe of Selbits, and they hate Iusian orcs, but they hate even worse the Orogs. They just slay them instantly.
But it could be that they look some orcs or that have a certain genetic history. They look a little bit different, are a little bit taller, have a different eye color or something, and then they are singled out, and then people make it into a religious thing or whatever, and orcs, and all of a sudden it becomes like we have horrifying examples of albinos in Africa, for instance, that are being outcasts and treated horribly because they look different and have different skin color. And there are a lot of examples. You can make fantasy versions of that inside or they can be elevated and say, oh, they are the blessing of Grumsh or something.
Oh, yeah, Robert Harley.
Way. And, so you can do cool stuff with it. Hi, Robert. Yeah.
Robert
Hey,
and
man.
crew. Wow, another massive raid. That's so kind of you, Robert. Thank you. We got 2
Yep.
giveaways tonight. I'm giving away 2 books each of Greyhawk based on adventures. So please feel free to sign up. Oh my gosh, where did I do it all? We're talking orcs. We're talking the Orc of Greyhawk, and we're talking some other, some of the other
You,
crossbreeds. You're gonna get
what
your
a
choice of 2 of
stash
these.
you have.
Oh yeah, yeah. You got a nice stash. You're gonna get your choice of 2 good things tonight. So, yep.
Hey, one other thing I would mention, and I don't know if you guys have used them, but Carnage Demons come to mind.
Oh.
They
yeah.
are from 3rd edition, the Monster Manual 5.
Mm-hmm.
And what they are is they are demons that were made out of especially vile and hateful orcs and ogres.
Oh, what are they called again?
Carnage demons.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
I had miniatures for them. I didn't even know what they
Yeah.
were. They're little red thing. They're red and short and squat, right?
Yeah.
Kind of look ape-like, yeah. And yeah, they're
That's interesting.
they rove around
Awesome.
in packs.
Yeah.
And I kind of like I said, I kind of like the idea. My players had the misfortune of stumbling into some who had been set loose in a section of Spine Castle.
That's very cool.
It's a great idea. Thank you for mentioning them. Thank you. That's an awesome idea. I haven't used them in 2 decades, but I need to.
And the great thing is that, like I said, they will attack anything, and at times they'll even like start ripping apart their fellows during combat. They just
Let me
don't
bring up the
care.
Fiend Folio here. I'm going to bring up the Fiend Folio and show another picture here as well of the Ogrillan Orc. This is 1st edition, everyone. It's kind of, there's some really unbelievable old school pictures
I need to look
in here.
at if I can find.
But there are some that are,
Yeah.
there's a Penanglin. You got in a lot of trouble for that picture. There it is. Yeah, right there. So as you can see, you got I think that's supposed to be an ogre there. You're a Grillin and an orc, a pig-faced orc, and this is from the original 1st edition. You're a Grillin being your orc orog, orc ogre cross breed at that time. So, yep. And Fancy, thank you, very kind of you. Yeah, please everyone follow Robert Hartley as well. Please go over and give him a follow. Fantastic professional DM, and he was doing a crafting stream he came from, which is awesome. I love to see that. So yeah, Burp Kids Greyhawk here. My campaign is 42 years old. We believe it's the longest in existence. So, yep. Good to see you. Welcome. All right. So, Orog, go ahead, Les.
I was going to say, I noticed Tim Enoch Pratt is freaking out about the Carnage Demon over in
Well, good for him.
Well, he was one of my players. That's why.
That's great.
I'm triggering him. So
awesome.
That's in the 3rd edition one. Monster
Manual. Yep.
Monster Manual 5.
Monster Manual 5, 3.5.
All right.
So it's a CR4 monster, just perfect for like mid-level, sending one on a lower level party and cause mayhem.
There's nothing left to lose. That's funny.
Oh, this is
really
awesome.
funny.
This is dynamite for my campaign. I need to look at. There was a lot of cool monsters. I saw 3. I just opened this and I saw 3 interesting monsters right away. So I need to convert them.
So Les,
there is a Tumblr, by the way, where someone's been going about converting 3rd edition, 3.5, and Pathfinder monsters to 5th edition.
That's great.
Anyone uses 5th edition, it's always.
Do you have a link to that somewhere?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Perfect.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you. Yep.
Burp Kids, very cool. So that is my favorite publication of all time, the Fuchsia Greyhawk box set, by far. As you can see, look, wow, I got right here. So we just had on Rick Rose on, who wrote one of these. We can't have Carl Sargent on because he is passed. We had Rick Rose on, who wrote one of the books for that a couple months ago, which is really cool. So, but great to hear. And there's a whole Greyhawk community too. I'm going to hit you up with some discords. There's 2 of them. All right. So, and there's Greyhawk Online as well. Check out through their website to get to theirs. So here's my question, Les. Do you have your Orogs do you have them with scalable hit dice, or are they at set hit dice? That's my main question.
It will depend. If I'm running it as a major NPC, That's one thing. If if I'm running it just as muscle, and I tend to do that, like I'm not adverse to, say, leveling or giving some extra skills to NPC monsters.
Okay.
But then sometimes you just need cannon fodder, right?
Well, yeah, I agree too. I agree too. That's why I like this. You know, pulled this one out because it had two different types. This is just once again, this is a Forgotten Realms based compendium.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to ask Ed Greenwood next time he's on some questions about this as well, because he's got black and red Orogs, which is really cool. There's Casey.
Yeah.
Here, thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Say, if you're going the Forgotten Realms route, don't forget the Tanarooks either.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The Tanarooks are the orcs whose blood had been tainted by demons.
And what publication are they in?
They go back. Let me see. They go all the way back to 2nd edition. It looks like some of the what do you call it? Farron material, but you can find them in the monster manual. Let's see, Monster Compendium, Monsters of Farron. So there's that option. They're in Volo's Guide to Monsters, and they're in a couple of other 3rd edition books.
Yeah.
So they're all
awesome.
over the place.
Good.
3rd,
take
4th,
a look
and
at that
5th.
too. I appreciate that suggestion. So yeah,
and Anna, I put the link. I put that link for the 3rd to 5th translation thing in chat.
Oh, perfect.
Should be up there.
So I just wanted to know my solution for and NPCs. I guess a lot of people scalability is now a big thing in all editions. You know,
but,
a Hobgoblin Warcaster, or you know, you're going to scale them.
Yeah, but I treat them as I would treat humans or elves or gnomes or any of the other demi-humans, meaning that they're like orc commoners, the ones that are not on the front lines fighting or anything. They're the ones that produce food or do all the other stuff in order to make an orc community function. And then you have everything up to elite soldiers and the big brutes and so on. So I have orcs and other humanoids going from like commoners. They can barely use a club or a dagger, and they have a few hit points, and they never fought anything in their life, so to speak. Up to I use shock troops that are like 15 level ones that survived 10 battles, and they are his prize fighters, so to speak. And he might have a few of them that lead big groups of shock troops, and they are the brutal ones that have survived many encounters, and they might be 10th level barbarians, 50 level fighters and stuff like that. But they are rare, but they are out there, so to speak, and they are priced, and they're really brutal to encounter. So I have the whole range, meaning they're capable and they learn fast, but they also die fast. So they kind of and it's hard. There's only a small percentage that will, much smaller percentage, because they don't give each other much leeway. So only the worst brutes ever will level up, so to speak, much lower than in a human population, for instance.
So in my campaign with half orcs, they make great bounty hunters, that class. They make great fighters, of course. Archer, they can be an archer. That's right in Len Kafka's article. And specialty priests of certain deities. So amongst other things, thieves and all that, But I'm just saying some of the things they really excel at. The bandit class too, they can be pretty good at as well. They can be rogues and assassins too, and absolutely. I'm just saying ones that I think they really excel at. I think the bounty hunter they really excel at. So
I was going to mention one last thing to you also. The what are they called? The Chosen, I think, or the Blessed of Yurtris.
Yeah, let's go to Yurtris.
I love that because you can reskin that very easily if you want, and have them worshiping Cabulus instead.
Yeah.
For a really nasty surprise. But the idea here would be that you have an orc god of disease and death. And when an orc becomes sick, they might nurture the sickness within the orc, and then just set them loose. And they're basically fanatics who will fight to the death, and then of course they just kind of explode, spraying disease everywhere. which to me is just again, it's a great kind of. I remember the first time I used those against my players, and the reactions. Everyone having to save versus disease. It was
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's a change up from Encabulous. You're expecting it, but when you get the white hands, the worshippers of the white hands, and there you go. He's got the pale white human-looking hands, which is really creepy with no face. The face, his mouth's rotted away and stuff. Yeah, Blackthorn. Yeah, BB, one of my favorite places in the original Free City Grok box set. Yeah. So Yurtress is a fantastic Roger Moore deity that was done up, but not used that much at all. So
there's actually to be fair, I'm not sure when it was first introduced, but they have these disease-spreading orcs that basically explode when they're slain. Basically, they just spray disease everywhere when they're killed. In 5th edition, so
really
kind of surprising, and my players did not love it when they encountered them.
Yeah, well, that would be pretty disgusting.
Yeah, and they didn't expect, that they would wind up being, having something else to deal with other than an orc attack. It's like now suddenly they're all coming down sick, and why don't we have a cleric in the party
here? Because clerics are boring for the most part, but they're not. You know what I mean?
Am I right? Ain't that the truth, man?
You gotta have it. So why don't we? I'm assuming a lot of these are new, right? These new heraldry.
Oh yeah, some of them are been around for a little bit, but some of them are new. Only I sent them to my middle tier patrons yesterday.
All right,
so some of them are really new.
We'll keep it with the orcs. It's been scrolling through at the bottom, but how about the evil eye orcs?
Yeah, evil eye orcs. That's a new one that
I love
made
it.
For So I took I just Googled evil eye, and that roundel came up, and I thought, okay, let's go with it. And I realized that seems to be, and I think it's a reason, because when we humans, we think of an evil eye like a monstrous eye, but look at it from a humanoid perspective. They might see airy looking eyes to be the most evil ones, so to speak. So that's why I thought it might be logical. So I went with that roundel on that shield, so to speak. So that's
that's
and it's rusty and
that's
bad
what I love about
and not maintained or anything. It's like how you would find it, so to speak.
Oh, Anna, I know you mentioned Paul Luby earlier.
Yeah,
I was going to mention that when he and Crichton Broadhurst were doing those pieces that were on the Wizard's site.
Yeah.
For Living Greyhawk, it mentioned that who was it? It was the brother of the head of Greyhawk's Thieves Guild.
Nerf Gaskell?
Yeah, I think so. Was basically his brother died defending Narwhal.
Orgnention.
Yeah.
It's Orgnention,
his brother's head, and the orcs ran off with his brother's head.
Yeah.
Okay. And that I worked that into my campaign as a recurring motif, where both the orcs of the Wild Coast and the ancient Flan of the Wild Coast had this thing about decapitating their enemies. I think that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously, there are lots of different mystical traditions and mythological traditions involving decapitation.
Yep. This shield design is interesting. This one stared at me. I realized I stared at it 100 times without realizing it. It's on the cover of Adventure Begins.
Yeah.
There's a humanoid holding a shield that looks like this. So I was like, oh, that's Greyhawk.
So you made it to your Urzen tribe.
Yeah, so I took that and made my Ursun orcs use that shield. And I also came up a little bit of the backstory. That red band around the skull, that and the skull holds a bone in its mouth. And I simply say that's how they torture them. They chop off a leg, put it in the mouth, and then they chop off the skull to hear the and we might not say that out loud. You got the message. This is a child-friendly channel, so we should not mention it too much. But I thought that was the story. And you see under the eyes there are kind of holes in the skull. Imagine some gruesome thing they do in order to create that, and you got the picture where they got the shield from. So.
Anna, that's not as bad. I can't remember whether it was the Slayer's Guidebook or whether it was a second edition book, but I remember once there was a thing where the idea of it mentioned the orcs taking heads, and that basically chieftains, because they can't trust anyone, including their own kin, would decorate their individual lair, their individual home, if you will, with these heads,
Mm-hmm.
and the heads
Yep.
were enchanted to basically start screaming upon anyone intruding.
Yep.
So I love the idea of these decomposing heads.
Oh yeah, and I could say that is something that a lot of orc and other humanoid tribes, they put out their killings and maimed enemies and put them on a pole outside the settlement as to say that if you come and mess with us, this is what we do, so to speak. I
love the idea.
So it's kind of, that's humanoid logic. Meaning we show that we are bastards and this is what you do.
And to be a bastard to your enemy, you're going to make your enemy basically be your guard.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. And then they enchant it somehow and so on. Yeah, I have all sorts of that's, you have to start thinking in creative, horrible ways of messing with your players and characters, so to speak.
I had to put this one up because this is the one that you didn't know what it was, right? And it's in the Temple of Elemental Evil, so I had to put this.
Yeah, it's actually hanging in the wall on the illustration of the Inn of the Welcome Wench in Elmore's illustration of the Inn of the Welcome Wench. It's hanging on the wall there, so to speak. So I just came up with an idea of saying that what if that was from the Battle of the Emery Meadows.
Yes.
They picked up that shield and took it as a trophy and hung it in the Inn of the Welcome Wench after the battle, so to speak. And then someone said, what is it from? And I say, well, it can either be the shield of Hamlet, meaning Hamlet might be run by a lord or someone caretaker of the village, so to speak, who used that symbol for the village, or it might be what about Lareth the Beautiful? It might be his shield, or it might be someone who came from the Pomarsh or someone and served in one of the during the battle on the evil side or something, and he or she or it used this shield. You can come up with all sorts of stories behind it, so to speak.
I love it. I mean, you gave an explanation for a shield that was written by it was drawn up by Larry Elmore that was never explained.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a decoration on, but I took it just like from The Adventure Begins. It's just part of the illustration, but damn, it's a Greyhawk product, so we need to put it in the world, so to speak, make use of it.
Absolutely. Orc Kazgans, the Kazgun clan.
Kazgun. Yeah, this is interesting. This one is from my Kazgun orcs, and I wanted a shield that is ominous and kind of imposing, but a little bit more civilized. So what about this? Is a shield that emphasized the Kazgun's orcs' ability to build monument and organize and project their powers, not by putting up heads of their enemies outside the gate, but they're also not a frontline force that much. They are more empire builders, so to speak, from an Orcish perspective. So they wanted a shield that could project empire. So they learned from others they looked at, so to speak, from other countries. And the blue at the bottom is the river that they have a bridge that spans. And then they wanted to make it look much more imposing than it is. And the red sky, meaning they serve Ayus, they're under his protection, so to speak, and so you have the red Ayus or old empire color, so to speak. So that's how I came up with the shield design, so to speak.
Very cool.
Really good. Really great.
Maybe stolen from Darren.
I steal ideas from everywhere when I do this. So yeah.
Well,
so
I think you say maybe the orc stole that idea from Darren is what I think.
Okay,
I think
that might be.
Rick Miller is saying.
Yeah.
Do I have any other orcs here? So a lot of these are hobgoblins, goblins, and stuff.
Oh yeah, there are lots of other designs that I put in here. So yeah.
Well, I'll show one of these. I think is new. Is Gashclaw Knolls new?
Yeah, that's one of the Bone March.
We'll show that.
This
Bone
is
March.
just it's like a gripping claw.
Yeah, but I love the light angle.
It's kind of slimy, like a lot of dried blood, and then they are proud, so they polish their shields because they put blood on them, and then they make sure they polish them in order so they will look shiny, and so they are kind of. So they want to show off more. You see they are proud of their their equipment and capabilities. So some of these tribes are neglectful and don't care about anything, but I think this tribe might be the exception. So they polished up their shields and they put spit and blood and various other bodily fluids from their enemies on them, and then they shine them up and make do with them. So yeah.
I'll show one more here. I love the coloring on this, and I think this is from the Pomage and the Sus worm-ridden tree.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I
from
love
the
this one.
Pomage.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love this
Yeah.
one.
That's someone who actually either they have someone with artistic talent or they have simply had some poor prisoner having to paint that before they died, and then of course it's starting to the shield was in decent quality to begin with, but it's starting to rust away and they don't know how to maintain it really and stuff. So, yeah.
I was going to mention when we were speaking of all this talk about heads and hands, and it's got me going. I was going to mention one of the other things I talked about the Gerwat, the idea of those child soldiers.
Yeah.
One of the things in my campaign is that they don't have faces, quote unquote, until they've proven themselves in battle often enough. And
That is a great idea.
And first, they have to wear masks.
Yep.
And in fact, there are also pit fighters in the Pomage and in Spine Castle who, because they're considered property rather than a member of a tribe, they wear basically masks made out of flesh, the flesh of their kills.
Nice.
Yeah, I even have oh, sorry.
No, that was it.
Yeah, I was going to say I had an orc tribe that are so that they want to make sure that everyone that grows up are capable fighters. They don't want to have a lot of unuseful orcs and tribe members. You know, so what they do is that they take all their infants and they dig a big pit, and then they put their infants down there, and they put a little bit of food, and then the infants have to survive. And only when they are big enough that they can climb out of the pit, they are greeted as members of the tribe, and so they sitting there betting on which of these little orcs will be big enough to climb out of it, so to speak. And the ones they feed each other, so they make sure that whoever is old enough are vicious, the toughest, meanest, vicious present ever, so to speak. So
similar idea with those masks. That you don't have a face. No one will know who you are.
They're not members of the tribe, and that way also they're not individual kids.
Exactly.
They are offspring of the tribe. So and it's also good because they don't need to tend to them or whatever. It's simple. You just put them in the pit, and whatever comes out is greeted because it's capable, and that's how they manage. I love to go deeper with my cultures than normal. So
hey, Calsta. Yeah, remind me not to go down and talk about it. This one's this one is the one I missed of the orcs here. What's it called? Vile Rune Orcs. Where that? Yeah, that's cool.
And I took them as the one that this is like a shield that was conquered or taken from an enemy and then polished up, and they put the rune in, and it's the rune from the Greyhawk rune alphabet of evil and stuff like that. So,
and just a neat little note about that. I mentioned the coup in my campaign.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that the vile rune had been absorbed by the Bloody Eye, who are the ones who are currently governing Spine Castle. What they did, the signifier that the players saw was all the vile rune, all the Bloody Eye graffiti that marks some of the buildings. Suddenly people started drawing this, or orcs started drawing the symbol of the vile rune in the center of the eye.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
As a kind of, we were absorbed, we will dominate.
Yep.
And then of course that's going to result in the coup where that's where the vile rune take over the Bloody Eye. Take over the tribe that had absorbed them.
Yep.
So yeah.
We're not going over to orc right there, Rick. Sorry, I'm not going that side of the map.
We kind of hinted at it early on when we talked about where they come from, so to speak. So yeah.
Yeah, over there in that area.
Yeah, no one misses it. So that's very true.
Yeah. Hints are okay, and that's what we did. So
yep.
So questions from the audience on orcs or any of their related kin, or let me know. Yeah, you got to rename that. Definitely, it's one of those things you for safety purposes.
Yep.
So,
Orc-Reich is like a Rammstein song that they didn't even decide to release. So.
No, we haven't mentioned the mighty kobolds much because the kobolds are a little bit of a problem because in traditional Greyhawk they are not reptilians. much. They are just one of the many humanoids. They're not described early on as reptilians. That's something that came later on. They became more and more draconic, reptilian-like, so to speak.
And really, the kobolds, I mean, it's one of those things where I think, you have the orcs, you have the gnolls, you've got the goblinoids, and then you got the kobolds.
Yeah.
It's like each kind of deserves their own little focus at times, I think.
Yes, yeah. So yeah. Yep.
Perhaps at some point we can discuss whether you use the more draconic kobolds, or do you go back to the old ones, or can you?
Yeah, that's a whole that's a whole discussion.
Exactly. That's
itself.
why.
My
Yeah,
gosh,
exactly. It's a topic by itself. So that's why
Exactly,
I
that's what
stayed
I-
away
yeah,
from.
That's a good one. That's a good one, though. It's a good one to go
Yep.
to.
It's not really, and it's not really relevant to this any more than like discussing the hobgoblins.
Right.
And then we have another Greyhawk variety that we haven't talked about, mentioned yet, and the flints that are an interesting.
Oh, I love flints. Flyings, flints. I don't know. Even though no one knows how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the flint bars are great.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely for gnolls.
That is a Greyhawk speciality.
So, Dan Weirdo said, are half orcs treated as badly as half elves among their parent communities? No, because they can tend to dominate orcs in orc communities. Maybe when they're younger, but they can tend to dominate the orc community.
Yeah, I think that comes up in a few sources that actually half orcs, because of their intelligence, they wind up working their way up the ranks.
Yeah, but I can also see some orcish community probably see them as horrible half-bloods and not worthy of anything more than scorn, so to speak.
Or seeing them inherently as a threat because they are so smart.
Exactly, they come and dominate them and
use that as a pretext for killing them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I can see, either they adore them as being the smartest of the tribe, or they see them as horrible, evil overlords.
It really depends on your game. It depends on their direction and stuff.
Exactly.
And the tribe, even you can do it differently for different tribes.
Some tribes are smarter than others.
Yep.
So
so this is like a smorgasbord of possibilities that you should cherry pick from for your own campaign.
Ananson, I don't understand that question at all.
Basically the spelljammer orcs, the spacefaring orcs.
Yeah.
Scrow, I never even heard that.
Oh,
This is the first time I've heard that name in 50 years or whatever.
Look at it and read it backwards.
Orcs.
Yep, there you go.
That's awesome.
That's
news to me.
Yep.
Yeah, really cool. So orcs are, the most well-known humanoid that there is, when you think about it in the game, and it's they're in a lot of spots in Greyhawk. They're
their frequency is common, if I'm not mistaken.
We've detailed 4 major spots in the campaign, and there's a lot of other smaller areas where they exist. I mean, it sounds like there's 250,000 of them in the North Province, according to the documents. Yep. Wow. So there's a lot of orcs in the Greyhawk campaign, and you can utilize them however you wish that fits into your campaign. I've always liked, I've loved orcs from day one. I love half orcs. I love Ogrillans. I love Orogs. I love the whole deal. Half ogres, all of it. And
just one last thought with the North Kingdom thing. Don't be afraid to, if you do the North Kingdom situation, don't be afraid to think of analogous historical situations where rulers have brought in outside mercenaries or outside forces, and then those forces kind of just stay, and it creates tension, and you wind up with all kinds of political factionism and scheming and discontent.
So basically, they are the Greyhawk Sarmatians.
That's a good, good comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just stay in England. It needs culture here. Yeah. So, Anne, any final thoughts here on this discussion tonight?
I'm just going to say, I hope we didn't go overboard too much with gory details or stuff like that.
Only
I
the
think
end.
it's part of the but it's part of the topic, so to speak. And I think I hope we've given a little bit of a wide little taken from different parts and different angles on the topic, so to speak. But yeah,
little bits and pieces here. And Les, how about you and your final thoughts?
I've got to say, like I said, I always suggest that DMs revert to that question that was raised by the OSR several years back. Why not humans? And I think the answer to that question, when you examine it and you look at orcs and you look at the different lore involving orcs and the different situations that you find orcs in throughout the Flyness, you can find a ready answer to why the orcs make great villains.
Yeah.
And why they're different types of villains than humans. And I think that's something that you should lean into and exploit.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, and I also think that one of the things that humanoids, and I'm talking about all of them, so to speak, one of the unique things compared to a lot of other monsters is the fact that they have culture, depth, and they are way more than a stat block. And that's why I think should be one of the unique features, not on an individual basis, but as a group and as a phenomena in your campaign, it should have way more depth, meaning religion, fighting styles, organization, culture, and stuff.
I mentioned those two, like, for example, if you think about it, you're exactly right. Imagine with a Carnage Demon how bad you have to be as an orc or an ogre. Like what norms you have to violate to actually become a Carnage Demon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or and what kind of orc tribe would produce, or one of its members would allow themselves to produce an orc with demonic blood.
Yeah, you can imagine a shaman of that tribe might be either be scorned or be the highest valued member of of orc society.
You're either a genius or you're mad, or some combination.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Patrick just brought up a great point, Canadian. There are no water orcs, but there are water hobgoblins.
Yeah. Orcs don't like to swim.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I'm doing examples. Yeah, humanoids are great antitheses early on, and even later with level capping and things like that.
Yeah.
And so half orc with demon blood become tieflings. What's a tiefling?
Exactly. It can be inversion. Yeah.
Cambions or I've never had a half orc, half demon in my campaign. That's
the Tanaruk. T-A-N-A-R-U.
So that's what they are. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I want to I'm starting to get the sense that I want to use the term tiefling for fey fiend combinations. That's I'm thinking about using tiefling for some sort of fey fiend combination.
Just remember, this is coming from a guy who's bred almost every single creature I could with orcs with the mongrel adventures. I've had an orc, half centaur. Okay, so just note, I've gone there. I try to get as gross as possible, but that was just for the fun of the shock value. So hopefully you enjoyed this discussion tonight. We'll do some shout outs and we'll do the giveaways, and call it a first stream of 4 this week. So we go tonight, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday this week. Hey, you got the mongrels will test anything out that's possible. So awesome. All right, so Les, thanks for coming on tonight.
It's always a joy, man.
Oh, I really appreciate it. What's going on with you? What do you got going on?
Well, let's see. The campaign is ongoing. The players are utterly horrified and convinced that there'll be a total party kill from week to week.
Nice.
Let's see. What else has been going on? Of course, I've been polishing up the adventures that I'm running for Virtual Greyhawk Con.
Nice.
For those interested, one of them will be a 5th edition adventures set in the Sus Forest, and the other one will be the aforementioned Spine Castle AD&D game.
Nice.
And I've been working on some articles encapsulating some of the lore that I've been weaving into my campaign, because I've already got all these notes, and of course, the players have discovered stuff, so I figured I might as well just type this stuff up. I'll submit some of it to the OJ, some of it to Cannon Fire, because it's hopefully stuff that people can glean some ideas from, pirate, pillage, use as you will, some of which I discussed tonight. Other than that, I'm just hanging in there, man, making it as best I can.
Yeah. I really appreciate your input tonight. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
really
wonderful.
Yes.
Always a pleasure being with you guys.
Please note that Mike is off every other week, and we're going to be asking, depending on our topic, like, we'll talk about next week's with Mike here. We're going to be asking for people, and we're going to try and do the Living Greyhawk ones on weeks that Mike isn't here, just because, that way if we have 3 or 4, it doesn't. Mike's
And
not,
also just be sure to check out Mike's blog for that entry that he did about Geralt Egdel.
Yeah,
Yes.
good one.
Orc City in the Griff Mountains.
Really good one. So, Anna, what's going on?
Well, it's a lot. I'm sorry about the failure on live stream last Friday, but I'm going to try this week too, because it has worked 4 times out of 5. So there might be odds that we get it to work. So I'm going to see if I can test it a little bit tomorrow and see if I can work out the kinks, and then see if Alyssa wants to come on. I haven't confirmed that yet, but there will be a new try on Friday at 8 o'clock Eastern and 5 o'clock Pacific. And then the 598 map is coming closer to a few days, and I will have a first version of it out. I'm almost done. So there's I'm getting into the polished state now, to polish things, so to speak. So that is being a lot of stuff done with that, and that there was new. You saw some examples of the heraldry. I have more heraldry coming. I just love doing heraldry right now. It's a distraction that is irresistibly fun for me to do heraldry, and then the Altamira is going to get the big render very soon. And also, I'm going to, on Friday, I might work on my Shieldlands maps for a change. And there will be some more update on how I go about the latest version in my world machine for my top tier patrons. And I'm so grateful. Thank you, everyone, because I'm at 376 patrons, so it's
nice.
So it's fantastic. I'm just blown away. So thank you, everyone, for doing it. I have also a lot of rules ideas that I'm converting and stuff, so I'm going to write up stuff from that. There will be the village of all the I have 10 projects I'm working on that it's coming. So I've never been more productive in my career than I'm right now. So it's thanks to you guys. I've so many cool ideas that I write them down. I have an inspiration list of things to go through. So there's tons and tons of stuff. It's just that a lot of big ones like the 598 maps needs to get out of the door. And so hopefully next week I can have a write-up about my patron update with the top tier for people who want to have customized version of the map and stuff. And I'm going to ask my players in my campaign if we should do a stream session and invite some extra players for virtual Greyhawk Con. So I'm going to put some pressure on them and see if we can't do that.
Awesome.
Yep.
So note that John at Blue Box is good. Do you know what shield that is? I don't know what shield that is.
Page 11 of G2.
You don't want you to look that up while we're.
Where is page 11 on G2?
Frost Giant, Jarl.
Oh, okay. Page 11 on G2. Okay, thank you.
Whoops! I did it again. I did hit the wrong button again. Jeez. All right. While Anna's doing that, here is the official artwork for Virtual Greyhawk Con 3. We have the t-shirt. Yes, rediscover secrets and legends. Dan Smith did it. Cannibal donated the commission. Anna colorized it and did it up for us that way. It is going on t-shirts. The t-shirts will be in next week. They're already in the tabletop events site, and we're already taking orders for them. Please note that includes shipping. But you got to be registered for the con to be able to order them. Yes, it is a tribute to Leonard, of course. So very nicely done. It is. We got 3 pieces of artwork. It's just the way. Let me link it again here. Give me 1 sec. There we go. All right. 26 events are in. Amy, thank you for the second event. Really appreciate it. I think that's the last one. There's more coming. Definitely. I got a lot of my streamers lined up. They just haven't put them in yet. Carlos hasn't put his in yet. Praters hasn't. Guild Superior hasn't. Armin hasn't. And Phoenix Iwaki hasn't. And all the Greyhawk Reborn events aren't in there yet. So we got a lot going on. But yeah. So I got some of these. This is my newest shirt too, the Lord Gazumba color. I have this and the purple, so they're available too if you want one of those. Just to give you that. Next, tomorrow night, I showed some pics already. Rumble in the Warehouse. So I was talking to Anna before the stream, and I'm like, so Anna, I got this whole area of the warehouse set up, warehouse district in Altamira, and then I go to my map. I go, I never put the warehouse district on the map anywhere.
Now you need to.
Yeah, I gotta add that in. We'll fit it in somewhere, but so
yeah.
I got some nice pictures of done.
And realize you need to put these down now, because once it's done, it's done. You can't have.
No, I know. That's why I'm taking extra amount of pictures. Now this piece, that's a 3D print from Gamescape. Look at that. Look at this.
Oh, it looks awesome.
Levels, yes. Rumble in the Warehouse. Now you get the idea. It's a one shot. It has to be, and I'll explain why it needs to be. I got to get the terrain down for this on Saturday. I have a Saturday night special with some brand new players coming first time to the campaign. I got Lady Lavinius, the partner Twitch she's a Twitch partner, Magic the Gathering streamer. I have Crane Wright. She was on. She's does a lot of the readings for Patroller Games, has her own stream. She's awesome. They're both playing along with Darling, Bones, Mike Disney, and Taryn. And it's the Drow Hunters, the name of the adventure. I just didn't want to put that out because I didn't want to take stuff on people bashing me on Twitter. It's called the Drow Hunter. So that's the adventure. It'll be a fun one. That is Saturday, at 6:00. It'll be really some brand new players.
I have some ideas on the shield.
Okay.
It's on the 11 on the G123. I think you mean the because on that's the illustration where you have the torch on the wall with the carvings and stuff, and there's a warrior and he has a shield that has a lion and a couple of stars at the top, and what looks a bit like a lion's head in the middle, and then has a shell like the oil company shell symbol at the bottom. And to me, it's kind of interesting. The lion and stuff that ties into Keelland and the Steric and the other one. So it's definitely, I would love to have it as the Duchy of Dorlin or one of the other provinces of Keelland that doesn't have a shield.
Let's talk with Gary.
That will be fantastic. So we need to go. So yeah.
Well, if it's kind of seashell, it's got to be on the.
Exactly. So one of the ones. There are several. Gradzul has a shield, but the Duchy of Gradzul. Yeah. So we'll see. But it will be cool because there are several provinces of Keelland that doesn't have a shield, so it will be perfect too. So I'm going to make a color version of it, and we'll see what we can fit it into the story.
Great. The biggest I get is 3X. There's 3 X's on there, so I'm hoping that works. I got out of order. I put these in the reverse order. The big guys are 4 and 5. I try. It's whatever the limitations are of what the shirts are. I went out of order. Next Wednesday, Vecna, a true Greyhawk legend. Nice. We're going for it because Twitter is driving me bananas with the falsehoods out there. It's just, and I want to feel like I had correct every one of them, but I don't want to get in an argument with it. So we're going to do it on a Legends Lore. And Mike's also got the graphic novel, so we'll go from that a lot too. We may ask another guest to join us here. I don't know where my Gabbin went. Maybe I didn't put it in here. So hold on, let me pop up real quick. So I thought I was going to have a special guest. Don't have one for this Sunday, so we're going to go B's and C's. We're going to do this. We're going to go Keep on the Borderlands, Bone Hill, Ghost Tower of Remembrance, and Hidden Shrine to Moacan. We'll try and get through those 4. We'll at least get through Borderlands and Bone Hill on Sunday night's discussion in the Wall of Fame deep dive on Gabbin. So I may have Tim join us, Anna, or someone else on that one, and that is Sunday. All right. Next Thursday, we talked about this at the beginning of the show. John Birchfield from Blue Box will be in my house, and it'll be a one-shot. And I kind of went over this with Gary. The name of this adventure is The Saintly Reliquary. This is from Scott Benny passed a couple months ago. This is in honor of Scott. So you have your saints, right? the Order of Yuluk will get a tip that in a ruined temple, and I don't know which one's going to be Gary. I know it's going to hurt you when I say this in my game, but it's probably going to be my Ilmater, maybe but there is supposedly a relic of Elidor, Saint Elidor the Survivor, that they want to get their hands on before the Dark Brotherhood does, and that's going to be the one shot we do on next Thursday. So I'm trying to tie in some stuff there to what Scott Benny did, and with the Saint articles, because I really love them. There's that. Oh, I missed it. Hey, Laser Dongface Melter. There it is. And then the big one, Ed is probable. Ed's wife passed. He's probable. And this is on the 30th. So this is still 2 weeks from Saturday, where we got Mark Muir, Ed Greenwood, Tony, Eric, Anna, and Eric Mengi, if he can make it, for a really good adventure with 2 drink minimum. And that is, I'm working on Eric. Mark Muir has made his character up. He's a dual class human. And it's his idea, and I won't ruin it anymore beyond that, but he's playing a dual class human from the old 1E rules, which would be neat. So that's what's going on, everyone. Fun times, huh? Let's do the giveaways. We're gonna do two of them. All right. So yeah. It's been about a month she passed, so yeah.
Yep.
Alrighty, here we go. Yes, Ed's wife passed in the end of June.
Yeah, we knew she was ill because.
Yeah, he always had said that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so
yep.
He's doing better every day. I've been trying. Yeah, I've been trying to keep him. Keep him chatting and stuff.
Spirits up.
Absolutely.
Yep, that's good. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, here we go with the giveaways. Last call. You got 10 seconds. Exclamation point drawing if you want to get in. And then we're going to raid into, and I'm doing this. I'm doing this for, because I was asked to. We're going to go to the streamer Bipolar Dice Roller, who is what's he do? Spelljammer, because they're going to try and put together a Spelljammer con, and Josh's Pop is working and helping them. So so if you have any interest in that, that may be a place you may want to.
You might find some scroll.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. Here we go. The winner, GD. There you go, man. First win.
Oh,
you won, and the second winner,
cool.
Bogart 34.
Hey.
I know GD was on Bogart 34. I mean,
congratulations.
Yes.
Yep.
You're both in chat. Reach out to me and we'll get through this. GD, you're first, so let me know. Give me some ideas as to what you want in chat. We can do that, and we'll get that tomorrow night. We're doing a Gamescape 3D plus a Reaper giveaway. So we're doing a bunch of STLs, but we'll do one Reaper mini giveaway as well. So Les, Oblivion Seeker, and Anna, any final thoughts? Any final words as we thank you for a great show?
I was going to thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Les and Jay. Yep.
We're going to pass on and try to raid over 100 into them. That'll increase our viewers by 10 times. So let's rock and roll this. Thank you, Robert Hartley and Blue Box for great raids tonight too. No, thank you, and we'll see you all tomorrow night for. It's gonna be a big hack and slash fight. I mean, it's what's called Rumble in the Warehouse.
Yeah.
Jeremy from Game Seekers, how the hell are you going to use that warehouse? It's so big. I said I'll use it. Trust me. So, all right, we'll see you all tomorrow night. Have a good one, and keep on gaming. And Jay will hit the wrong button here.
Thank you.
Maybe not.
Yep.
All right, send a braid. Thank you, Gabriel. Hey, you got that answered, that question answered too, which is awesome. Give me a second here. We're almost to 199, 106, 113. Oh my gosh, 115, 16, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have a great night. See you tomorrow night. Oh my gosh.
116. That's
116 raid for him.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
See,
Wow.
Les, you're very popular. You're drawing in a big crowd. Yeah.
No.
Oh yes.
Subject,
you
good
did.
subject, man. But man, thanks for having me on, guys.
Oh, always.
Thank you.